What is up, Moody? What's going on,
What's
brother?
up? Nothing much. Nothing much. Excited for this episode that we got. Completely packed, I guess.
Hey, I guess you could kind of say that. Yeah,
A packed
pretty
normal week of
eventful week.
wrestling.
Yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah.
normal week. I mean, we do got a pop up show. We gotta have to talk about Saturday night's main events.
That's not a pop-up show. I vote not pop-up show. Like I said, that's a special edition. That's all that is.
Yeah, because sometimes it just feels. The first one when we did it last month, it felt like it was a loaded card. If we talked about
Hmm.
it being like a PLE level type of card, and for the most part, it was pretty predictable. The only thing that wasn't, that we said it was a toss up was the Meechin Chelsea Green. But this week we got 4 matches on that card. Somewhat predictable.
Yeah.
So
There's
if they're
there's
gonna
only
be
one.
if they're gonna be predictable like this, do we actually count them in the pop up score record?
I would say no. Like I said, it's taking the place of remember Saturday or Sunday Night Heat. I mean, obviously it's way better than that, but I remember
Yeah,
Sunday Night Heat was just the end of the week. Oh, in case you forgot,
yeah,
versus this is like, oh, this is the compilation or not compilation. This is the fulfillment of like recent storylines on TV that maybe don't require, like you said, a pop up show
yeah.
legitimately. So it's big enough that we care about it, but it's not big enough that it's should be on the next pay per view.
All right. Well, we'll treat this like the Pro Bowl then, or
There you
like
go.
the All
There
Star
you go.
game. Like it's just like we'll go through the predictions and things, but I guess we won't count it to the official record score.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it
All
don't
right.
matter. We can still do the predictions. I ain't mad at it.
All right. Well, let's get into these Sunday Percies, and before we get into what we actually have on the Notion doc and just not beleaguer it, I'll start off with one of my first Percies, and it's obviously all dedicated to the hat that I got going on today because tomorrow, baby, I want to see something for the first time that I've never seen in my life. The last time
Hmm.
we were in this position was 33 years ago.
Yeah,
And
us
then
talking about being a year old.
33 years ago, on January 26th, 1992, my Washington football team, Redskins at the time, won the Super Bowl. And it was the last time we ever got anywhere that far. And tomorrow, on the 33 anniversary, we're playing for an NFC championship, which is I still can't believe it. I saw the NFL game preview video pop up like on Tuesday or Wednesday earlier this week with the NFC championship logo. I was like, wow, this is
Hmm.
real. Then we're
Seeing
doing
that
press
burgundy
conferences.
W.
Like we got press conferences and they got the whole, NFC championship, banner behind them, just like, game man. Like I was like, wow, like this is real. We are
Hmm.
actually playing for an NFC championship tomorrow. And if we go into the link into Philly,
Hmm.
win that game, and are able to hold up the NFC championship on Philly's field, oh my goodness. I mean, this season already is just a win for me. You knew my expectations coming into this season was just, hey, play good, clean football, be be present. Because the problems with the past teams was that you could just tell that you just didn't come into this game ready to play. You would get your ass kicked within the first 5 minutes and be like, all right, then you got to work your way back up to possibly win or just continue to get blown out. There hasn't been a game this entire season outside of maybe the first one, which was Jaden's first game, where you could be like, okay, yeah, we got outplayed. But even against Tampa, we didn't get outplayed. Jaden just didn't take the chances that he's taking that he's taking now. I wanted to see, hey, what kind of quarterback we got, and can we build upon this guy? Not to figure out if we got the guy or if he's, what it is. I just want to be like, hey, just show me something that makes us feel that, hey, we're moving in the right direction. Who would have thought after game 3, when he throws that deep shot to Terry McLaurin against Cincinnati, that I was like, yo, I said it at that time. I was like, oh, this dude is not only getting his option picked up, this dude is getting signed to an extension after 3 weeks. We got a Hail Mary in between. We got 6-5 comebacks in the row. We knock off Tampa at their place. We go to the number 1 seed, knock off the Detroit Lions in their place. Whatever the outcome of tomorrow is, obviously I want it to be a win. This season is beyond a win. It's the best season of football from this team that I've ever seen in my life. And I don't think, this is just, I'm just complete stunned. I'm just complete stunned. And if they are able to pull it off and Jaden Daniels becomes the first rookie ever to start a Super Bowl, a black man being the first rookie to start a Super Bowl. What a season. It's already an amazing season. You'll never be able to take away from even in a loss. But man, I could have never predicted that in 1 year we'd be in this position. It's stunning.
Yeah, I mean, nobody would have bet on this exactly. But that's what happens when you're able to get rid of a cancer, right? Like the main cancer.
Yeah.
Like that's like obstructing a team. Are you kidding me? When it's literally the guy who's supposed to be paying everybody's checks, but by proxy also looking out for everybody. You know what I'm saying? HR, you are the HR violation. Come on, like you can't move forward when the owner is the HR violation. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I was thinking about this as I was washing my face because, I mean, I knew you were going to bring this up, obviously. And my thought was, man, it's really cool to see. I mean, also with the progress of time, you can always be like, hey, those years of strife were not due to, I mean, partially due to team, but obviously just this one guy that it's like, yo, the second he gets out of there and you get a new quarterback, he has the greatest rookie season ever. You know what I'm saying? And also to point out that this factually is the greatest rookie season ever. Let me go ahead and be on I'll get on the, soapbox real quick. Considering we start off with 70% completion rate through the first 4 weeks.
Something ridiculous like that.
Something ridiculous, because it was just him and Jared Goff that were accurate as fuck. Because Jared Goff was
he had 93% against Cincinnati that night.
Yeah, and I'm sure that this stings every fucking Cowboy fan out there because Jerry Jones sitting there still running the game since the 90s, since Jimmy Johnson and all that era. You know what I'm saying? When you guys got the Super Bowl in that time too, and it's like, bruh. Everybody in that division, the Cowboys, we looking at y'all, nigga. Like y'all ain't been to the NFC Championship since 1993. Now it was y'all, but now y'all broke that record. So that's really
man. That's where I was like, that was one of the bucket lists. I was like, man, if we could just get to the NFC Championship, once we got into the playoffs, I was like, if we can get to the NFC Championship and just remove ourselves from that list of being, first. If you want to include us with the Cowboys, it was like the only two teams that have not make a championship game since the 90s is us and the Cowboys. Then it's like, okay, but we were the longest because we had been there since 91 and they haven't been there since 94 or 95. Now it's like, y'all by yourselves on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all by yourselves. And if we make it to the Super Bowl, now y'all really by yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. But it's already the greatest rookie quarterback season ever, considering also getting to the NFC Championship on road games, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then not to mention, I mean, we talked about it before the Lions game, but I didn't think that was none of this was going to be a blowout. If any game was going to be a blowout, it was going to be the Chiefs and Texans. You know what I'm saying? This is a division rival. Y'all play each other twice a year. So all the chips are down. You know what I'm saying? This is just another game as far as I see it, because it should be. You know what I mean?
That's how they talking. That's how they talking too. That's how they talking. The way they talking today, the way they've been talking this week is the way they've been talking the entire week, the entire season, where it's just like it's another game. And when you got people like Bobby Wagner on a team like that have been in these positions, it goes a long way. It goes a long way, man. Just one more sleep and I get to see something that I've never seen in my life. So I can't wait for 3 o'clock tomorrow.
It'll be great. You want to hit that intro music?
Yeah. Let's get into some. So we're going back from the movie. right, Moody. Let's start off with your Percy. And where did you get back from the movies?
Back from the movies, I got this movie called Four Lions, 2010. It's this found on Amazon Prime. Just randomly, I like to dig and just search for random shit. I'll just read the description and I'm like, okay, that sounds enough. I would describe this as a satirical black comedy of it's a terrorist attack, but it's shown from the terrorist point of view.
Okay.
So I'm imagine kind of like
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 when they were going through the airport.
not quite. It's because it's a ridiculous comedy. Imagine it's more like it felt like Shaun of the Dead, kind of like that level of like dry humor and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But because I didn't want to. It's pretty short. Also, it's like an hour 40, but it's so ridiculous and like almost like Shaun of the Dead. Like what is it? Ashton Tucker versus Evil or something. Yeah. It's kind of like that level, like for 90% of the movie, and then like when the climax hits, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm actually like kind of heart wrenched, and like immediately after watching the movie, I did not expect to care that much. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, yo, these guys are just absolute buffoons this entire time. But yeah, satirical black comedy, Four Lions. And I do want to point out, it's 2010, so very there's one joke, like when you get to the very end of the movie that explains sort of like the whole setup. And like when I heard it, I was just like, oh, that's pretty funny. So suggestion, okay. I know you can knock that out with the gravity bong hit as much as you be watching movies. So pull up Amazon Prime. It's an easy watch also, not hard to get through.
So what do you got it at? Out of 5.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Some of the jokes do go on a little bit too long, I would say. I give it 3.5. Just watch it on stream. I guess that's what I'm kind of suggesting now. I wouldn't have watched this in the theater. So I give this 3.5.
Okay.
Right in my range, what I like. So
I haven't heard of it, so I'll definitely check it out. I'll get into my Percy's, and I'm also back from the movies, and I have 2. I'm gonna call this the ladies edition because both these movies I wanted to go see primarily for the women that are in it because I haven't really seen much of them in movies like this. The first one is a movie called Presence. I wanted to see this because I was like, oh, Lucy Liu's in a movie? When's the last time you seen Lucy?
In a while.
Exactly.
I heard that name in a while.
Like, when's the last time you see Lucy Liu in a movie? And so I was like, all right, I'll check it out. It's by Steven Soderbergh, so I've liked a lot of his films as well. It's a kind of like a ghost movie because it's a movie that is basically taking the perspective. It's a POV movie from the ghost's perspective. Okay. So somebody had died, and basically we're in this house, and we're following the perspective of this ghost and the people that have moved into this house, Lucy Liu's family. Lucy Liu, surprisingly, is more of a supporting actress, and the daughter is actually more of the main character in it because she ends up losing two of her friends to like drug deaths. Mm-hmm. And so she's like really depressed and whatnot. But don't want to spoil too much, but it's an interesting movie. Some of the dialogue didn't work for me because there was a lot of teenager kind of issues. Not issues, but just teenager level dialogue. And I was like, okay, this is a little boring for me. But overall, I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was well made. Definitely some things to kind of like chew on afterwards, just to kind of think through about like what does it mean for death and how does it affect people? What do these presents really mean and what do they bring and whatnot? But it was a fun movie. Lucy Liu, I wish she had a little bit more into it, but she wasn't bad in it. There wasn't really any bad acting in it. I think more so the thing that kind of brought me down a little bit was just the teenage dialogue that was in it. But overall, it was a pretty good movie. I gave it a 2.5 stars. So it's a no rush stream for me. But it's like a no rush stream, almost edging to a day one stream.
Okay.
But I definitely would recommend checking it out. And the other movie that I saw this week for the ladies edition was One of Them Days. And this was Kiki Palmer and SZA's acting debut. And it's produced by Issa Rae. And basically, this is kind of, people will talk about it as like Friday, which there are elements of Friday in it. It's like Friday mixed with Friday After Next, because I think
All right.
you have it is where, because Friday was a little bit more of a serious movie. It was comedic, but it had a little bit more seriousness to it. But next Friday, the jokes were kind of the main driving force,
Yeah.
and it was a little bit more over the top. That's where I think it kind of didn't really hit for me, where some of the comedy was just a little too forced or over the top, and I wish it was a little bit more grounded. But the premise is not that difficult. It's these two girls, Kiki Palmer and SZA's characters. They're best friends. They live together, but one's an artist. SZA's an artist that barely makes any money, and then Kiki Palmer works at a diner, and they're about to get evicted, and they need to get like $1,500 to pay their rent by the end of the day. And so this whole thing is just, how are they going to get this $1,500? And then other hijinks kind of happens, and you meet the cast of the people in the neighborhood, and it's a fun movie. It's one that I wish that we got more movies of in general, where not everything has to be the serious introspective movie. Sometimes we could just go, like, there's not really that many good comedies to come out the just go into theaters. Usually it's a drama or an action flick, and it's like, man, when's the last time we just had a comedy? Just
an original, like, good comedy.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that happened. Kiki Palmer and SZA have really good chemistry. SZA actually did a pretty good job. I mean, it's not like they're asking her to do anything too outside of her probably normalness of her, because SZA is pretty an eclectic person. But like I said, the only thing, it wasn't as funny as I anticipated it. I think they tried a little too hard on the comedy, and I wish that it was a little bit more grounded. So, not overall, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. Not something that I think I would say, like, I would be like, oh man, like, I need to go back to this and and watch it every 6 months or so. But it was a fun movie, and I wouldn't be mad to see them kind of come out with like a part 2 in some sort, if they did come out with it. Another one, another 2.5 stars, a No Rush stream. This one is edging from, like, if Presence was a 2.5, almost a 3. This was almost like a 2 to a 2.5.
2 or 2.5. Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
But I definitely would say, like, check it out. It's good. Like you said, Katrina kind of wanted to go see it. I'm like, I would say for you guys, I'm like, yeah, you go there and you can enjoy it, especially if you got a good crowd inside the theater. I think you will enjoy it. But you can also just wait for it to come on the streaming.
I only heard like the partial explanation of the premise when they were, because they're on their press tour. They were on Hot Ones, all three of them: Issa Rae, SZA, and Kiki Palmer. So that's all that I heard about it too. Simple enough that they gotta, grind it out for a day. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see that as like a next Friday, because next Friday is the most stoner out of like the 3 Fridays. That's like the most stoner, like, kind of comedy one. Like, that's very lighthearted. So yeah, I like the sound of that. And that's what Trina like. Trina only, like, that's her favorite kind, is comedies. So, like, you got a black woman.
That's why I say, like, I'd rather you go watch it in theaters, just for the fact that, like, we don't get comedies in theaters. And so, like, I feel most people would watch this movie and be like, oh yeah, this would have been better on Netflix. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what they're doing to movies like these. They're putting them straight to Netflix. And it's like, not all these movies need to go straight to Netflix or streaming. Like, we can watch some of these movies in theaters and watch them collectively instead of just sitting at our homes and watching it. So that's why I rather push people to go watch. Even though I rated it as a no rush stream, I rather have people go to the movies to watch these type of movies in theaters, because we don't get comedies, just straight up comedies in theaters. Like, if there's a comedy, it's like usually like a comedy mixed with like a heist movie or something like that. And it's like, no, this is just a straight up comedy. And so I'm like, hey, let's go, like, enjoy it, man. There's not too many times we get these, and like, this is not actually that bad. Like, I wish it could have been funnier, but some people found it funny. Like some people were like busting out laughing. I had a lot of good chuckles in it. I'm not gonna lie, but like I said, for me, I wish the comedy was a little bit more grounded rather than being a little bit over the top to my liking. But other than that, good week of movies. Like I said, ladies edition. Both those movies was like I wanted to see them because I'm like, again, when's the last time you see Lucy Liu in a movie? And then again, SZA, first time in her career that she's been in a movie, like at least a feature length film, and then Kiki Palmer. She's had a definitely like a plus up as far as just like adult acting, especially when she's like coming off a Nope and things of that nature. Where I'm like, yeah, like I like to see Kiki Palmer in these roles, and she kind of plays the straight person in this film, while SZA is a little bit more of the
goofy.
She's not smoky, but yeah, she's a little bit more goofy in the film. So good film. A lot of Black All Stars in there. We had Cat Williams, Tony Baker, the principal from Abbott Elementary, I believe, is in there as well.
Janelle James.
Yeah, we had Unc Jerome from Snowfall. He's in the movie as well. So a lot of recognizable people in it. That it's an enjoyable film, and I think there's some good laughs in it. So those are my Percy's. Anything else before we get into the show?
No, let's start it.
Doors opening. Step back to allow customers to exit.
To the crowd is Ahawisha Hayes. Samson, you're my tag team partner.
The French fry throw, Moody coming off the top rope. And this is the Wrestling Re-Up Podcast.
A weekly stroll through the avenue of wrestling.
Follow us on our socials, Instagram, send us an email at thewrestlingreup@gmail.com. All social platforms at The Wrestling Re-Up. No hyphens.
What up, everyone? Episode 29 of the Wrestling Re-Up Podcast. Samson here, French Fry Fro Moody. And we're back for another week. We got a pop-up show. We talked about it. All-Star Pro Bowl edition of a pop-up show in Saturday night's main event. But we also got a full week of wrestling to get through. Pretty eventful on the TV side, but then there was a lot of talk on the outside world of just, shoot wrestling as far as what's happening with people's contracts and whatnot. We'll see if we get into any of that. But how you feeling, Moody? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Ready to talk about this. Ready for Saturday night's main event tonight, too.
Yeah. Well, I think we can start this stroll and just head straight into this flagship store of Monday Night Raw. And let's get into it and not waste any time. And we have a full breadth of primos this week on both sides. We have about 5 primos that we want to call out. Some similar, some opposing. Let's start off with the similar.
Yeah, KO and Sammy.
Yeah.
That KO promo I just thought was, I put it in there, like Tribal Chief KO. That's what I called him, because he's just manipulating Sammy, like the emotional manipulation of just being like, hey, you'll be there for me the way that you were there for Roman, right? Heavy pause. And I was just like, oh, he's got a point, Sammy. You know what I mean? You went through hell and high water to make sure you could, team back up with the old bloodline homies. But I still think it's awesome that he's calling himself the rightful WWE champion when you're holding the old belt that's retired, and that. So for him, for him to be so logical as a character, I don't know where he gets off saying that he's the WWE champion, though. Like,
we saw what happened at Saturday night's main event. Cody cheated. Cody cheated.
But you still, even in a DQ, you still don't get the belt. That's true. Even if it's a DQ loss. So that still doesn't, but let him be a megalomaniac. That's fine. He's on his fuck Cody shit right now. So that's cool. But yeah, as far as Sammy's just pulled in all directions. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got his ass kicked by Drew later on. I know we're going to bring that up, but his response wasn't anything other than I would expect Sammy to say, like, as like an eternal baby face, which is just like, all right, we'll kick this kick this can down the road a little bit longer, because I mean, the whole linchpin of this is him winning the Royal Rumble. We don't get no answer until he wins the Royal Rumble, right? Which he's not. So he's not getting that match. But either way, I very much enjoyed this segment. That was my favorite talking segment the whole episode.
No, yeah. I mean, Kevin has been killing it. And I think, as much as we, throughout time have probably like, okay, like the Sammy and KO storylines are a little exhausting because we know their relationship and whatnot. So it's like, how often do we just got to stick to this pair all the time? But I do think when you do have that kind of history with two characters like that, there's always opportunity for you to kind of come back to it in good spots. And I thought this was a good way to kind of come back into it, especially with the Royal Rumble on the line, because everybody wants to win the Royal Rumble. Sammy's talking about he wants to win the Royal Rumble, talking about, I don't need the world championship, but I want it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we kind of talk about. And when we're talking about wrestling as a shoot, it's like there's some people that don't need the title. You're good without the title, but it's nice to acknowledge. It's nice to hear it, and even if it's a work, it's nice to hear that there's still ambition to win the title, even though you might not necessarily need it for your character because you're so over on the business sense. And so having that in there and then tying it in with Kevin and having having that opportunity, like the same thing with Jey Uso and Jimmy, to be able to main event WrestleMania with your brother, that's special.
Yeah.
And be able to say, hey, me and Sammy, best friends for however many long, are able to main event WrestleMania, not as tag team champions, but we're main eventing for the prize of the entire company on the biggest show of the year. That's some good motivation for Sammy to do something.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna work out. I would like it to work out. I have some heavy fantasy booking in my head for how it could play out.
Mm-hmm. We gotta wait till post Rumble though, because that's the whole linchpin. It's Sammy winning the Rumble, which we said is not going to happen. So it's we just got to wait till post Rumble, then we'll probably have a better view.
But what about if Sammy still helps KO and he ends up getting a number one contendership out of Elimination Chamber or something like that?
He helps KO
beat Cody.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And then because that's what he asked him to. He was like, I also need you to help me beat Cody.
Yeah. That's just seems like jumping the shark for Sammy as a character, right? Like Sammy has taken the place of Rey in that eternal babyface spot. Even when he was a bad guy, he was a heel with the bloodline. He was still Sammy, a face that was kind of brainwashed, So I personally don't see that. That would be super wild if Sammy actually did do that. That would be I don't know. That would be interesting though, because then I would think we're not going to be rooting for Sammy to win the title from KO at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's wild booking in my head. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's just wild booking. But I mean, I did also like how that also connected to later in the night. When we got Seth going over on Drew, which I'm so happy that Seth got that win. This is my other primo that I have for the show, Seth beating Drew. And then the whole confrontation afterwards, because, Drew getting tight comes out, ends up beating up Seth Rollins. And then, he's looked like he's about to not brogue kick him, but what's his kick? Claymore him onto the ring post. And Sammy comes out and prevents it. More fisticuffs kind of going on. Drew's got Seth in the corner, and then perfectly timed, Sammy comes up with a haluva kick and ends up haluva kicking Seth Rollins. And so
Drew McIntyre's spider tingle, that spider sense went off. He wasn't even looking at Sammy. Yeah. He just slid off that was funny because Seth's dramatic face. It was like when Seth got hit with that kick, it reminded me of Roman. Just like the crazy, it's not an oversell, but it's just
that bug eyes Roman gets when he gets when he really feels something. He's like, oh snap!
It's not an oversell, but he was just, you just would have believed that killed Seth. It just killed him, the haluva kick, and it's all right, you be all right.
But I'm curious to see how that plays out because again, Drew technically has some points that he's making that I'm like I don't disagree.
It's not even technical. I think he does. He has better points than KO does. And I mean, my first thought was like, Seth ain't gonna do shit. Like, Sammy accidentally kicked him in the face, but he's like, they're on good terms. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure that apology in the moment is enough, even if it doesn't. I don't think it needs to happen on TV next week. Is just what I'm saying. Because I'm sure they'll bring it up, but
it depends if Seth watches tape. It depends if Seth watches tape.
Yeah.
If he watched the tape, he'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that was incidental.
Mm-hmm.
That was an accident." But if he doesn't watch the tape, Seth is just going to be, a lunatic about it.
But then again, it's funny because if Seth does watch the tape, it's like, yo, bro, when have you ever done a haluva kick to the back of somebody's head? When have you ever done that, Sammy? Like, you wasn't aiming for Drew. My face was in the corner. That was the back of his head. You knew he was going to duck.
See, you already making Seth's point. Even if he did watch tape, I didn't even think about that. You already make Seth's point. So again,
it's going to be interesting. Somebody in the back of the head with a haluva kick.
It's going to be interesting. And I believe Seth is in the Royal Rumble too as well. So we're going to get all three of these guys in the Rumble, and we're going to see how it plays out. It's going to be interesting on the men's side when we have to make our predictions in a couple weeks of who's going to win this. I have a pretty high confidence meter on who's going to win the women's Royal Rumble, but the men's, it's open. It's open. Even though I have my favorite right now. I'll say it right now. My favorite, I think, and it's going to be Roman.
Yeah.
But again, if I have some fantasy booking in my head, we'll get into when we get to Saturday night's main event. I can see someone else that currently is not they could be eligible if they wanted to, but why would you? It's probably not going to be in the Rumble, but I could see being a last minute entrant being in the Rumble. But we'll get to that when we get to Saturday night's main event. Any thoughts? Any more thoughts on the Seth, Drew, Sammy?
No, we good.
Okay.
My primo that I got up here is I love the Nia Jax and Bayley match.
Yeah.
Nia Jax getting the W over her. And really, it was more so about the brawl afterwards, though, just the whole angle. Because the match was great. This whole primo is like a great match into great brawl, which is why it's primo. But Rhea Ripley coming out and the brawl that they have afterwards, I was not expecting does Rhea do like rolling sentons? Like, I've never seen her do cannonballs before, but she does the cannonball off of the announce desk into like, the security and like Nia Jax and everything. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen her do that before, but it's like, that would be
that's the luxury of having reinforced tables now.
Yeah, I was like, you're right about that. That's a good point, though. But it's funny because it was my immediate thought, though, was like, it would be interesting to see like Rhea, not that she has to do this, but like, just changing the move setup. And it was like, what if like Rhea starts not do high flying, but give her like two things she does, like off the turnbuckle. That would be an interesting wrinkle to her. I
wonder what her thing would be off the turnbuckle.
Yeah, I think she just needs like one or two, because like the whole story of that, like this rivalry right now is that, Nia Jax is a big girl. You can't get her up for the Riptide necessarily. Like, she can, but it's like, that is the story that they were telling, is like, you can always just like refresh that, Nia's, I don't want to be rude, but 250, we'll just call her 250. And Rhea is not that. So
yeah, but I'm pretty sure we've seen Rhea do the Riptide.
We have seen her do it. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's not too like, it's not too soon that you can run back that same kind of story wrinkle, that not the smaller champion has to like chop down the tree of Nia, you know what I'm saying? And like just find out a different way to do it other than the Riptide. You know what I'm saying? It's like Ricochet going over to AEW. Now he has the Spirit Gun as the finisher. The best finishers you can just do on anybody. You know what I'm saying? So just that kind of thing. But it made me think, I'm like, yeah, Rhea should do some stuff off the top rope. That'd be interesting. But yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for this as well. I mean, again, this is kind of where the Saturday night's main event of it makes it a little bit more predictable because
Mhm.
it's like, okay, Rhea is probably not going to lose this, but it's going to be a good match, but Rhea's not losing this. And maybe
Yeah.
she hits the riptide on national television for a casual audience. And it's like, oh man, like who's this Rhea Ripley? You know, 1 week
Mhm.
she's winning the championship title and then she's getting, a cosign from The Undertaker. The next time we see her, she's riptiding this, large woman that you don't think that she's able to do that to. And, she ends up winning that. So, it's a good look for her.
Mhm.
Obviously we're Nia fans. So at any time I feel like we're going to be like, nah, Nia need to get the win. Nia need to get the win. She got the
Yeah.
win over Bailey. And this was Bailey's first match on Raw,
Mhm.
after making the transfer. And, interesting to have her lose. But I mean, it's Bailey, so I guess she could take a loss. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
curious
she's
to see
established.
how it
She's
plays out.
indestructible.
Bailey's been pretty busy right now because she's on NXT. She's got Roxanne in the crowd, watching her matches and whatnot. She's you know looks like she's about to tag with Julia, and
Mhm.
against Roxanne and Cora Jade. She's in this little feud right now between Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley. So again, Bailey, she's got a good cloak on her that a loss in this manner doesn't really hurt her. But I'm curious to see where her trajectory is on Raw moving forward is.
Yeah. What you got next? Yeah, you got another primo up there.
Yeah, my last primo is the CM Punk Rumble promo. And I'm not sure if this was on TV or if this was part of the commercial break kind of Netflix without ads kind of promos
Mhm.
that they be doing, but he was doing a promo with Jackie Redmond in the stands, and basically it was just a Rumble promo, and he was like, "Hey, if you want me to go against Seth, like I'll face Seth, and he'll talk about the problems that he had with Seth and how he'll throw him over." Like he said, John Cena, like you can't see me, or what? Like John Cena can't see me in the ring after I throw a mess over over the ropes and things of that nature. So he was kind of like picking a person and then talking about the history and then talking about how he's about to eliminate him. The best
Mhm.
line in there was him going at Hulk Hogan and saying, "Hey, I even throw Hulk Hogan's old dusty ass over those ropes and finally kill Hulkamania." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Let's go, let's go, let's speak on it." And what is dope is apparently that was unscripted.
Yeah,
But
just off the top. Yeah.
there's no heat on Punk, but that's again Punk is he's a good on the mic. He knows how to toe
Yeah.
the line on shoot and work, and even I'm sure that's much more of a shoot in a manner because even last
Mhm.
week he did a little Hulk Hogan kind of like kind of call out thing last week. So again, I think there's definitely some like real disdain on his part for Hulk Hogan. Um, but yeah, fuck Hulk Hogan, and I'm glad that CM Punk went shooting on him and talking about and saying on WWE television, "I will kill Hulkamania."
Yeah. I
So I
mean,
love
it's
that.
funny because it was already dead and they revived it. They shot like a spike of adrenaline into Hulkamania like it was Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction or some shit. Just like with
Mhm.
that sponsorship. And it's like, yo, we did not need this. That was the immediate reaction of everybody in the crowd. So, and yeah, I would have that up in primo. And to answer your possible question that you had, that yeah, it was not part of it. So the regular broadcast, so yeah, that's the no commercials Netflix promo that
Yeah,
you got a little bit extra on. But all
I'm
right,
pretty
down
sure
to these.
I'm pretty sure they
So
put
go
it
ahead.
up on. I'm pretty sure they put it up on the YouTube channel
Hmm.
to watch. So I would definitely go back and watch that clip because it was dope. It was dope.
Yeah. My favorite mid this week was Ray beating Kofi.
That's all
Kofi,
you. That's all you.
Kofi is such a bastard. And it's funny because like I immediately my thought was I really like the look that they had, just street clothes type shit. But then later on down the line, you find out like and shoot that apparently, they had to transfer through Atlanta and they just lost the back in Atlanta. So it's like Kobe just actually got his regular clothes on, and I'm like, yo, normal like maybe I think that's what it did for me because I was like, okay, this looks like heel Kofi, but it's like, that was just actually his regular shit. Like, I'm gonna beat your ass in my regular loafers type shit. So I thought that was cool. I mean, but yeah, I mean, we didn't. They're full on heels. Like at this point, like we knew that ass whooping was coming. I was surprised they didn't hit like a good like midnight hour, bringing up like old school. But I guess that's the one with Biggie. I forget what their finisher is called now. Oh, up down down. That's what they call it. But yeah, I enjoy it. I'm still enjoying heel New Day. And now I feel like they're really now that this match has happened. I mean, it's been up to this point them coming out getting booed, and then the first person to oppose them was Ray and was like, "Hey, you guys are assholes. Like, we don't want you out here." So now I feel like we're in full on heel mode. New Day. We beating up Ray and shit after the match. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
As they
bro.
should. As they should. Calling
yeah,
Ray.
That's a different point, but yeah.
Calling Ray the locker room leader and all of that, talking about we don't want you here. It's like, bro, that's like calling the pot the kettle black. What are we talking about? Why is Ray getting the win over Kofi? We done here, bro. Like, come on, man. That should have been Kofi's win. That should have been New Day's win. Yeah. Why is Ray getting the win, man? That's disappointing.
The Wily vet, man. 30. This man been doing this for 30 plus years. And then also you still on this Penta train? Obviously, we both are. It's still hot for me.
Oh yeah, and then they upgraded his intro even more this week with the spinning fire wheel. I was like, is that real? Yeah, I was like, is that real? And then I saw afterwards when like the flame started to die down, I was like, oh, that shit's real. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because like that was the one thought where I thought the pinwheel was awesome. I was like, I'm not a producer, I don't know this stuff, but I will say, I was like, was the fire and the pinwheel necessary? Because I was thinking maybe if you just had the pinwheel, it would have that sort of same effect, and it's very unique on itself. Nobody else has that. So it's like, no, it still looked great. But yeah, I just had that thought. I was like, maybe one or the other, but it was awesome. Like his entrance, I think I can't wait to see it on the pay-per-view level for sure. Like, that's really what I want to see. Cero Miedo is interactive. It's not as super because I was about to jump the shark and be like, this could get to like Jey Uso entrance, but it's like that's so constant interaction that it's like, all right, that has just an advantage. So it's like he's just doing hand signs. But yeah, I can't wait to see him on pay-per-view already. This match was great. I love Penta's really been selling his ass off. Like, he was never like he's hollering and screaming in these matches, like in WWE, which he never did in AEW or Lucha Underground, to my knowledge. But I love, like, my favorite spot is, Pete Dunne's like finger break spot when he manipulates into boy.
Yeah.
He was like, just screaming and bloody murder. And I'm just like, okay, yeah. I think in my thought as a fan of him, I'm like, he's putting the WWE over. Like, just all of this is so impactful that everybody is doing to him. This is stuff that he's never done before. So that's kind of how I'm seeing his character a little bit, or I'm interpreting that with how OD his selling is in some of these spots. But I enjoyed it plenty.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw that we were getting, the first two matches that Penta's had is Chad Gable, and now you're getting Pete Dunne. Both great workers. And so that's already starting you off.
Backgrounds too. Both amateur backgrounds.
And that's already starting you off on a really good pathway compared to, most Latin superstars that might come in and just be paired with another Latin superstar, right? And so I like that we're getting him into the ring with, like you said, amateur wrestlers or just people that are really good mat technicians or ring technicians in general. I'm hoping there's more storyline with Pete Dunne and Penta moving forward. Because again, I'm not sure if this was again one of those Netflix without ad promos, or if this was something that happened on TV. But Pete Dunne, I believe, after the match was cutting a promo, and then he just got cut off. And like in that promo, he was kind of saying that like basically his frustrations about just getting looked over and whatnot. it seemed like it was kind of shoot, but then like all of a sudden the screen goes black and they cut his mic off, and I'm like, what was happening? And I haven't seen anybody really talk about it, but I'm hoping that again, Pete Dunne, especially with the attitude that he's got, I would love to see a little series between Pete Dunne and Penta moving forward, and hoping this is not like this is not just another person to just check off the box of like, yeah, I'm just kind of getting my my ring, you know, my ring work out the way and just kind of
Mhm.
going through opponents. And it's like, okay, I have a rivalry that I can go with between Pete Dunne and Pete Dunne versus Penta, which would eventually probably lead to an intercontinental probably
Yeah.
chase. That'd
Like
be really dope.
positioning. Yeah, positioning for the IC title. I could see that. And Pete Dunne, from the sound of that promo, 'cause I didn't see that. So yeah, I think that'd be a good linchpin for him to just be like, oh, you got your, shiny new toy, Nick Aldis. Meanwhile, I've been here snapping fingers
Hey,
and
don't put
stuff
that
like
on Nick
that.
Aldis.
You know
That
what I'm
is
saying?
on. That is that bum ass Adam Pierce.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm yeah, you know what I was saying. But yeah, like Adam Pierce, like you got your shiny new toy, you gave him all the fire and pinwheels. Like what the hell? Meanwhile,
Right.
people forget my freaking name, and I got to tell them that my name's not Butch anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. So
when
I'm
Penta,
hoping there's.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say just to start your storyline, yeah, Penta's got to call him like Sheamus will like talk to Penta backstage and then be like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yo, call him Butch." Like have Sheamus like set up Penta, and then when Penta's like talks to Pete Dunne next or something, he calls him that, and he just fucking snaps. And then there you go. That's where you start. Don't call me that anymore.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. We'll probably see Pete Dunne jump Penta next week. Hopefully that's the
Mhm.
case.
Yeah.
My other mid, we already kind of talked about it, but it was Nia versus Bailey. So I won't dive deep into it since we talked about it. Just highlighting the positional difference that we had on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Any more for Raw? I'm good on that.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Overall, Raw was pretty good. I did enjoy the Jey Uso promo with Gunther, even though it's again
Yeah.
like we're kind of just getting to the match at this point. But it was, it's another good promo work on both sides on that. So, but overall, I mean, Raw was a pretty decent show for the most part. I think the main strong points were definitely the Seth, KO, and Drew and storyline, kind of getting that push forward and then preparing us for the Rumble.
Yeah.
So,
All right. How about this NXT? Yeah, this should have been NXT Clash of the Champions. Like honestly, because I was like, did this get like special promotion or something like that? Because every title was on the line, or
I didn't even
every
realize that. But yeah, I think like looking back on it,
every
yeah, there was.
singles, every men's singles was on the line. That's where I was like, hold on a second, was this a thing? But I guess it was just timing on the card, or timing of the
Yeah.
rivalries. So that made it like extra special. We both agree in everything. Our primo, we got Eddie Thorpe having his fall from grace to Obafemi, challenging him after jumping him last week. Obviously, I mean, this wasn't going anywhere else. So this to me is more so about like, what is Oba doing after this? Because he's already defeated both Trick and Eddie. So who's next up really at this point? I mean, I guess you could circle back to Trick.
He faced off with Trick at the end of the show, and so it
Well,
seems
that's what I
like we're
said.
going to be. It seems like that's what we're going to be seeing at Vengeance Day in a couple weeks.
Yeah. I think that'll be like my champion of the week last week, or graduation tears or whenever that and that last NXT pay-per-view was, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, they lost their titles, they should be moving up, Trick and Roxanne. So all right.
The one
So
thing I
if
will
that's the
say
case,
about that, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, well, we would still have Trick winning, right? He's still gonna retain. So Trick is gonna move up to SmackDown. I'm booking that now. Who's next up for Oba?
Ethan Page.
Ethan. Yeah. Okay. All right. At least we got that.
That'd
Just
be my
sitting there
next guess.
thinking, because Tony D'Angelo, like he's the one who has the most story with him, but outside of like Wesley.
Or Wesley.
But
Wesley could be one too.
Yeah, Wesley. But he would just he's the reason that he lost the North American Championship.
Exactly.
That started his reign. So I guess you can circle back on that. And I thought Tony D, but Tony D is, North American champion. So you could. It's been a while since we had a title for title. I mean, Oba could definitely do that. I mean, I would put that like, I don't know, 6 months from now, something. Keith Lee, once upon a time was NXT champion and North American champion back during the pandemic. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. Nobody got to see it, but I would love to see Oba do that. So maybe that's what I'm saying. I'm calling my shot on that, like 6 months. I don't know, 8 months out. Like he'll be, I guess that would be undisputed NXT champion or some shit. I don't know, but just champ.
That'd be a big look. But I don't know if I have that same feeling that like as much as I would love Obafemi to have like 2 titles. I'm like, do you really need the North American title?
No, you don't need it because he's already
the longest. He's the longest reigning North American champion. Like.
Because, I mean, at this point, obviously, he's indestructible, right? So it's like, even a year from now, I'm like, you got to tell a hell of a story to, like, knock the ruler off the mountain, right? So it's like, you're going to have to put somebody realistically, let's say, well, first of all, in his weight class, but unless you're going to chop him down with storyline and shit. But, yeah, you don't need it. He's already, because I see him as, like, a undefeated monster, NXT champion until he isn't. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think he should be booked at. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Obviously, you don't need it, but I just think it would be. I'm bringing up how dominant he is and how entertaining he is. Since Keith Lee, if anybody could get that spot, it would be him.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, if you're looking at the roster, I think the Ridge Holland might get an opportunity, but I don't think Ridge will win. But I do think the 2 top contenders at this moment, if you're looking at who's on the NXT roster, is Tony D and Ethan Page being the main contenders. If anybody else, they're either not signed yet,
true,
or they're probably on Level Up. But if they're on Level Up,
they definitely
you ain't winning that joint until maybe October.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like
at least.
And that's like, again, it's all dependent on like size and whatnot. The one thing I want to leave off on this is like, where is Eddie Thorpe in all this? Because he's had a pretty good look, especially coming back, kind of rebranding himself a little bit. But ever since he's kind of been thrown into this Obafemi, Trick Williams kind of rivalry 3-way, he's kind of looked the weakest in this.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think in the match, he was good. Because again, he's not a small guy, and so for Obafemi to just be tossing him around like he's Wes Lee, it's fairly impressive. But then afterwards, when like Trick comes into the ring, and then they have that stare down, and then Eddie Thorpe looks like he's about to get up and then attack somebody, and then Trick Williams just takes him out with like the quickness. It's like, okay, so I guess we don't have to worry about Eddie Thorpe. Like he's just
yeah.
It is a little too much of making him a little look inadequate that I'm like, man, all right, like I wish he kind of took both of them out, but again, it's just more curiosity of what happens with Eddie Thorpe because it feels like he's always getting the short end of the stick in most of these situations.
I could agree with that. I'd agree with that in kayfabe for sure. I mean, but then again, I think he also understands that he's punching up because if it wasn't for him being involved in that 3-way, like there's no reason for him to be in the NXT. Like, yeah, honestly, to be in the NXT title picture, like I said, he was kind of just thrown in there, but he's getting that opportunity. So I think he would be happy about that. Like, even though he created it himself with like, fake getting beat up or whatever. The strategy of last year. Like what? Okay, I guess it worked, but yeah, I think he would be happy with it. I mean, yeah, obviously he wants to win, but he understands that it's like, Frick is a 2-time champion and Oba's the longest reigning, North American champion. These ain't small chips right here that you playing with.
Yeah. Interesting though. But yeah, overall, like the match a lot. Now let's get into our agreed upon mids. Tony D beating Rich Holland for the North American Championship. Retaining his North American Championship. Outcome expected, but I guess where I have this in the mid rising is just, again, Tony D. We've talked about his evolution, especially in the ring, and how he's kind of evolved. And I think the same goes for Rich Holland. Rich Holland obviously, shooting, went through a pretty traumatic moment, hurting Big E, came back to NXT and, cleaned up some stuff, and he's just gotten better. And even his mic work is not that bad. And I think when we talk about titles like the North American title or the Intercontinental title or the US title, like, what do we call them? They're mid-card titles that are supposed to kind of elevate you to eventually reach that next ring of, main event or, second main event nature of that title. And I think for both these guys, they're doing a really good job. And this makes me excited to see what kind of moves forward, because this didn't end the cleanest in the cleanest way. There was some unwanted assisted help from Izzy Dame, but I'm curious to see how it moves forward, and I'm really intrigued by what comes out of this Tony D Rich Holland rivalry in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think I might have missed this, but I need to find out what the story is with Izzy Dame and the family. Because has she had interactions with them before? Like, I just don't understand.
I need to clean up. I need to freshen myself up on that as well.
Because if anything, it should have been either Luca Crucifino or Stax or Lord forgive me, I can't remember her name. The other homie that's actually in the family.
Yeah.
I would think she would have done it. That would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, you looking out for the family. That's the whole thing. But it's like, for you to be a effectively like random woman, not associated at all. But like I said, we could be tripping. We'll look into it. But I enjoyed this match as well. To me, it was a little bit more of a toss up. Like, just hearing it, just because I was like, maybe they do want to give him this position right now, because of all the points you said, that he went through all that stuff and has, sort of like rebuilt himself from the ground up. You know what I'm saying? Even having that, I very much so enjoyed his storyline of like being rehabbed and then destroying Chase U. That's like the best thing he's done so far, because I loved Andre Chase and that broke my heart. So I thought that was very effective for him. And he was on a tear, honestly. He's kind of like NXT's Drew McIntyre, where he's just like a big powerhouse fucking, and if he says he's gonna come down there and fuck you up, you fully on believe it. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I was like, is this actually gonna happen? But yeah, my guy pulled it out.
I could see him being a challenger for Obafemi in the not too distant future. He has the size, and again, he's improved in it. I don't think he would win, but it'd be interesting. And I'm glad you brought up Andre Chase, because like, where does Andre Chase play in this? Is he just going to be like a continuous foil for Rich Holland?
I mean,
no happiness for you?
Yeah, I mean, it should be, obviously, because if Chase U actually is this bad, like, we haven't gotten any of those like really good vignettes of like, we remember like Sad Corbin and stuff, or like when I told you before when Andre Chase gambled away like the I forget what it was called, the endowment for Chase U and all that shit. We haven't gotten any like story from him. It's just been running down on Rich Holland. So I guess as of right now, it's on site for him, but I would like a little bit more. I guess you don't need an explanation, like, why he's doing it. So, but yeah, I would want an advancement in that some way. There's got to be a like a stipulation match. Maybe a stipulation match is coming between them.
Sounds like a Vengeance Day matchup.
Yeah. Hey, let's go.
That sounds like a Vengeance Day. I mean, it sounds like somebody's trying to get some vengeance on another person, and it just so happens to be that day. So why don't have it on Vengeance Day? That's all.
Yeah. I hear you.
Finally, the last thing that we agree upon as our mid, Lexis King retaining the Heritage Cup over Charlie Dempsey. Low blow at the last minute for the 1, 2, 3 to take the final pin.
just disrespecting, like leaning into it, like all the way at this point, where it's like, all right, your father screwed you before, Charlie. Then it was an accidental low blow, and now it's nah. He's just doing this. Like, man, he don't care about the Heritage Cup rules, and I'm like, see, this is why. If anything, because I've very much enjoyed these sequence of matches. Like these guys have been great in the ring, and in kayfabe, this is where I'm like, hold on. As a fan, I'm like, nah, he can't be having that, dog. Like, I just laid it out for you. I can like let you slide on one, and they even shook hands because he thought he was gonna go for another one, and he stopped himself. Like that's when Charlie shook his hand. But, bro, if you're gonna keep on doing this, like that, like Ava, you need to have a conversation with the Heritage Cup champion, dog. Like that's the whole point of being the Heritage Cup champion, is that you're playing under this set of like very much so honorable rules. It's like the Ring of Honor championship where they have the code of honor if you're going to challenge for the Ring of Honor championship, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Lexus King don't give a fuck about none of that. So he's treating it like a regular title. So if anything, I just see this story or his story coming full circle with, obviously he's going to get like an eye gouge. He's going to lose the Heritage Cup via eye gouge, via low blow, or something super dirty like that.
Okay. I could definitely see that. I mean, I just like this because, again, Lexus King is I mean, I like both of these guys. Lexus King, I feel, has a lot of entertaining qualities about him, and I can just see him being a guy where it's like, what are you guys talking about? I'm the good guy here.
Exactly.
I didn't do anything wrong. Like, just being that delusional about it, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I believe him. Like, I try to be the good guy here. I'm not the bad guy here. Did I ask Charlie Dempsey's own father to throw in some brass knucks? No, I didn't tell Charlie Dempsey to pick up the brass knucks. It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like, again, Lexus King, he's very entertaining, and to kind of see him in these kind of moments is kind of fun to watch. Like I said, I don't know if he'll ever be world champion, but he'll definitely be high quality entertaining in the mid-card. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The last thing I didn't actually put it on here, but my girl, because I love the soap operas, like I love romances. So Carmen Petrovic, Ashante the Adonis's lady, gets the win on Jada Parker. Kaylani Jordan caused the distraction for her to roll her up. But if anything, I was just happy that I was like, love wins. Love wins. Yeah, get it out the mud, bitch. Like, get you a man to pull you up. See, that's why you ain't got no man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what she could have hit her with that. But very physical match, and I was happy Carmen won. But yeah, that's my last bit on NXT. I just wanted to.
What do you think about Kalani's interference?
I mean, I like the maturity of her character because, once again, as I mentioned to you before, I literally didn't care about Kaylani until she was North American champion. Like, her run as North American champion made me a fan of hers because she was generic babyface. And then there was just like very small things that I noticed with her character. I know I brought it up on the pod before when it was like weeks ago, where forget it was Carmen. I think it was Carmen Petrovic. Carmen Petrovic like came down to the ring and started beating up. Who was it? Not Julia. She started Cora Jade, and in the middle of the match. And then Kaylani was holding her back, and she was like, "What you do?" She was like, "Why are you doing this?" And then she was like, "She attacked me last week." And then she was like, "Oh, girl, beat her ass." She was like, "Oh, beat her ass." And she like, so Kaylani is showing a lot more. I wouldn't even call it spunk because we're past spunk at this point. Like, this is like she's saying, "I'm not that little girl anymore. She's a grown woman," and she's showing like womanly attitude. You know what I'm saying? So I think she's teetering more into. I don't want to say anti-hero. She's still definitely face, but just a little bit more badassery. Like, it's definitely gone up proportionally from week to week. I've noticed. So I'm glad that her character is maturing in that way.
I think that's a good way to call it, because people were anticipating a heel turn for her, and I'm like, sure, I could see a heel turn, but does that making Jada Parker a face? I don't know I don't know how that works, but I do think maturing and just showing
badass girl. Yeah.
I think maturing as a character, and just not being this happy-go-lucky, super clean baby face goes a long way. I think adding some kind of like, again, like Seth Rollins technically is ambiguous. Like, I guess he's a face, but he's kind of ambiguous depending on how you feel about Seth.
Tweener, sure. He's definitely a
Like,
face. He's a face tweener. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
he's a face
you get
tweener.
like a sativa dominant hybrid or indica dominant. He's a face dominant tweener. Yeah.
I said, it's all dependent on perspective. Like, I'm a biased Seth Rollins fan, so like Seth can't do anything wrong for me. But I can see somebody being on the opposite side, being like, nah, Seth sucks or whatever. Or like Seth is a terrible person, or he doesn't have these points. He's delusional and whatnot. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, if you can fit around in that area, yeah, that's your best bet, because it's like you're just adding conversation to your character rather than being like, yeah, this game.
Samson just had a little bit of technical difficulty, but that's all right. There you go. You're back.
The cable on my microphone is so I gotta stop messing around with it sometimes.
Oh, okay. There you go. You're clear now.
Yeah. But that interested to see what happens with Kalani. Maybe again, I'm curious to see when some of these things that are emotions start actually picking up some steam. Anything else from the bodega?
I am good. We got the coffee shop now.
All right, take us to AEW, Moody.
All right. Well, we both agree. We all the same stuff up here, but the primo for the show is the start of the show. Ospreay and Omega teaming up against the Don Callis family. Like, this was just awesome. You talk about like starting off with electricity. Like, the lasting image for me is definitely going to be those dual moonsaults, like off of a freaking, lighting rig and off of the stanchion for, the bleachers, basically, or not the bleachers, but, the crowd. Like, that shit was crazy. And I really enjoyed this because the Don Callis family obviously outnumbers them. And I was listening to Wrestle Talk, and Ollie was saying, like, it's their fight IQ. Like, I thought that was what it was. It's like, they're so experienced and such good wrestlers, and fighters that, like, they know that they got Konosuke back here. They're very aware. It's like being in that's probably the realest brawl I've ever seen. Like, outnumbered guys, like, fighting back, against numbers, and for it to end the way that it did, I was like, oh, this is great. And it really was like I don't know. I want to say like a suit, like, what do you call it? The alliance of the superpowers, but not quite, just because it's a generational thing. It's like, the passing of the torch. And I'm not saying that Kenny is passing it to him, but I'm saying as far as like them being like the best bout machine, Kenny Omega versus, the aerial assassin, Will Ospreay, who's clearly in his prime of primes right now. Kenny is not that any longer. He just returned after, a year and some change off. So that was a heartening moment. The only thing that I would say is where I would say I'm nitpicking or whatever it is
Picking
the fact
nits.
it starts, picking nits, is the fact that Kenny says to him, like, oh yeah, I can never trust you and all this shit. And then by the end of it, he's like, I always know I should have trusted you. Yeah, we should like do this. And it's like, I understand you don't need to give us that story necessarily. Because the matches were already had. We already had the dream match between them two at Wrestle Dynasty like last year. You know what I'm saying? So that's not anything that we need. But I thought maybe there's more meat on that bone for sure. The Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega rivalry, or I'll call it a frenemy relationship that they got right now, because clearly they're aligned. So, but that was really cool. Loved all of it. Ending with dual moonsaults. It was just awesome.
Yeah, you're leaning more towards the brawl, which I have no problem with the brawl. I actually like the promo just in the beginning half of it, when they were kind of talking about their differences and, why they wouldn't want to, work together and things of that nature, and why they have beef and whatnot. I thought that was really good, especially for someone like me that probably doesn't keep up with the show as diligently as I probably should. It's like, oh, okay, this is a good little refresher on between like, what is the issues between these guys. And so I thought the promo was done real. I thought they cut both really well. Did really well cutting their promos on that side. When Don Callis came out, I was just like, I know you mentioned him as like the Paul Heyman of AEW, but I guess for me, I'm just like, who was Don Callis though? Like, that's more for me. I need to figure out like, who is this guy in wrestling history, and does he carry the weight of Paul Heyman? The way we know Paul Heyman is like, oh yeah, this dude's ECW and Paul Heyman guys and things of that nature. It's like, are you just a guy here on television with a family, or are you like some, like, some guy I'm supposed to fucking know?
To elaborate on that, I was describing his kayfabe character as like Paul Heyman. So I said, he didn't start like a whole wrestling company and everything, all that stuff. But it's like when he shows up, he has elite fucking talent. Like the same way you think about Paul Heyman guy, like in WWE, that's like real shit. It's like if you're in the Don Callis family, you should be taken seriously. At least like relatively. Brian Cage is the only one right now who shouldn't be. But due to his physicality and like other places he's been, like he's just been underutilized in my opinion. Same thing with like Lance Archer. Lance Archer showed out great in this brawl too. I love that spot when they were fighting through the stadium and they end up doing the double suplex to Lance Archer, like in the merch stands, which is funny because that whole time I'm just like watching the arena workers in the background that are standing at the merch table, and you see them, they're clearly just like talking like the whole time, and then the second the spot happens, they both go like, oh, like, I was like, were y'all told to do that? Y'all must have been told like to react.
It's coded into the game, man. It's coded into the game.
Yeah, it's in the game. But yeah.
Once they did get into fighting, it was really dope. I like how they, brawled around the arena like that. And then I do like the frenemy storyline because I'm like, do we really trust Ospreay? Kenny made some points.
Yeah.
You trust Ospreay?
At this point, yeah. At this point, yeah, for sure. He hasn't done anything wrong. Like, it's not up to this point. He hasn't done anything heelish. We'll see.
That pay-per-view is not even the next one. That's like 2 pay-per-views from now, ain't it?
Yeah, I need to. Yeah,
because the next pay-per-view is like March 6th or March 9th or something like that. And then that was supposed to be at the next one is supposed to be like an Australian. They said that they were going to do that in Australia.
So Grand Slam. That's what they're doing that at.
So I don't know when that is, but that's not anytime soon, is it?
Yeah, Revolution is March 9th. Grand Slam is a special edition of Dynamite when they're going to be in Australia. So that'll be.
That's probably like in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe like the week of the Royal Rumble, probably.
Slam. 2025, yeah. Oh yeah, but next up on here, I thought you were going to tell me Grand Slam. I know, but I'm searching still. I was just trying not to have dead air.
February 15th.
There we go. Thank you, Jesus.
Same day as Vengeance Day.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
My other primo.
Oh, well, I wanted to leave one more thing with the Ospreay. I liked how Omega, when he was finished with his promo, and then like he kind of ended it with like, I'm done and I'm scared of heights, so let me get down. And you can see when he was climbing down, that dude was mad, like cautious coming down from that. And I'm like, hey, props to Kenny. Because who else is scared of heights? You know who's also scared of heights? Devon Dudley. And he did all that stuff with tables, ladders, and chairs. So shout out to wrestlers that go against their fear for our entertainment.
That's legit. I can believe that's legit. I mean, the instinct kicks in once you get up high. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I remember being at the Grand Canyon. You look over the edge. You like your knees start to buckle a little bit. You like, let's lower the.
Hey, some people it's easier. Like my little cousin, he doesn't even like getting on like Ferris wheels because of like the height. Like he is not a heights person. And I'm like, a Ferris wheel, dude? I'm like, Ferris wheel is pretty safe. Like, But hey,
Slow it bit.
I get it. Yeah, slow. You're kind of you're kind of walled
You're
in a good amount.
encapsulated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like there's not much chance for you to like actually die on a hot air balloon is more terrifying than a Ferris wheel. But I get it.
For sure.
Heights is not a joke for some people. I get it.
Yeah, it's a common fear. My primo, you got it as mid. The Hurt Syndicate winning the tag team championships off of Private Party. Fortunately, short reign, but sometimes you got to be a transitional champion just in order for us to get used to the idea of you being champions. You know what I'm saying? Like DIY, they just had their month-long, tag team championship reign before they lost it, and then they got it back. So now they're two-time champions. So not to say that Private Party's going to get it right back, because the way this match went, y'all ain't got a chance in hell. They got thrown around this goddamn ring. And the reason I was primo for me was like, it went exactly the way that it should have went. When the crowd up to that point is saying, we heard people, we heard people during the match. And Shelton is German suplexing the shit out of, Isaiah Cassidy. And the crowd is like, one more time. It's like, Shelton needs to go over. Like, that was a great spot for Shelton, showing the dominance and the experience. You know what I'm saying? And he's not a small guy. When you've been working out since 20, those are permanent. That's dad strength on top of like just regular strength. You know what I'm saying? So both of them got it. It was spectacular. I'm, like I said, not spectacular for Private Party necessarily, but did we expect it to go anywhere else? They just said it last week. We coming for it. They interrupted their literal Private Party tag team celebration to tell you the party's over. So, hey,
Yeah,
it is what it is. He was just in the way. Sorry.
Yeah, I have this as mid-rising, mostly because I'm glad Hurt Syndicate won. Not entirely surprised that they won, and I think a lot of it has to do just from, the shoot aspect of this, because I believe like a couple weeks ago, the Young Bucks were doing an interview or something of that nature, and they had mentioned how they had rather have dropped the titles to another team. I can't remember the team, but they were like, we rather, if you, they were basically saying like, if you gave us our choice, we would have dropped it to the other team rather than Private Party, because we felt like the other team deserved it. I'm like, damn, bro, why would you say something like that?
Yeah.
Why would you say something like that? So to your point is like transitional and how they kind of basically got washed. I'm like, damn, like if the EVPs, the literal EVPs, are saying that they rather would have dropped the titles to somebody else, like you're not doing much to put them over. And so I'm glad that,
I mean,
Bobby,
the title puts them over. That's the thing. That's what you're hoping for. You're hoping it offsets. You know what I'm saying? That the title itself is like, they're already tag team champions. That's on their resume, and that they'll be recognized from that point on. That's the dice that you're rolling in that, because Private Party, I don't think would be super high in anybody's tag team, AEW tag team power rankings. You know what I'm saying? But you got FTR over there with Cope and shit, so they're not focused on that. You got Bang Bang Gang is out right now. Freaking, you got I was gonna say the Scissor Brothers, the Acclaimed. They're going through a breakup right now. So it's kind of like just where, I guess, kind of where the chips fell. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, all right, this is a good time to establish them. You know what I'm saying? With the other tag team storylines that we got going on and other people being out.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what takes it out of primo for me. But where I have it in mid rising is because I'm like, okay, yeah, let's see how Shelton and Bobby reign as tag team champions go. And I hope that they are dominant and they are, at least going to put, not saying that the title doesn't have respect, but I do think they can elevate it to another level where when they do drop it, it's going to be a big deal. Now, the other question I have is, why is Bobby in the tag team?
I'm so glad you didn't forget that, because that's exactly what I was about to say, is that for the first time ever, I don't think we've ever said this, but I would have this primo low just because exactly what you just said. When the last episode, we were like, I mean, yeah, you can be the tag team champions, but I'd rather see Bobby as like going for the Continental or the International Championship, you know?
I
Like,
already
because
said it
he's done
before
that
when
done it
he
himself.
signed. I
So
was like, Bobby at this point in his career need to be fighting for only top titles.
yeah.
No
So,
Ring of Honor titles, no Continental titles, no TNT championships or whatever it may be. You need to be facing John Moxley.
yeah,
This
that's
should
believable
be
too. I
Death
mean, and you
Riders
got a
versus the
faction.
Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah. I mean,
Why are we
maybe it's
not
because
doing that? Makes no sense.
yeah, you're right. That's a good point. We gotta I mean, obviously you don't gotta do it right now, but as long as we get there, I think because there's meat on that bone, but I wouldn't get my hopes up about that because I mean, no, that's just too good of a story. Is Tony gonna do that? Because once somebody's slotted, is he gonna move them up? I would hope so. But the argument I would make is that I don't want to say that they're outnumbered, but they're not completely the Hurt Syndicate yet. They said that they're gonna have one more guy, but that shouldn't prevent you from having a stare down with Moxley or whatever, because MVP easily could, grab a mic and be like, yeah, we here to break backs or hurt people and get money. You got the most money in here. You walking around with a briefcase full of, $5 million. Just make up a number for the title belt, however much it costs or some shit. That's intriguing. But do you see that happening? Probably not. So that's I
No,
would
I
get my
mean,
hopes
my
up for
best
that.
bet would be maybe you get Powerhouse Hobbs
Yeah.
into the Hurt Syndicate, and then maybe at a certain point, Bobby can just be like, here, Powerhouse Hobbs, you be the tag team champion with Shelton while I go over here and face Silver on John Moxley. But then, eventually I could see Powerhouse Hobbs and Bobby Lashley getting into a feud, which would be dope as well.
That would be dope. I was just thinking, you said with Powerhouse Hobbs, like that's obviously a great choice because you got to match the aesthetic, black man. That's a big ass group.
He's feuding with
big.
but he's feuding with the Death Riders as well.
I was like, yo, that's like almost 1,000 pounds of man meat. Between the four of them, you know what I'm saying? That's a half ton. They all about 250. MVP is the smallest. Yeah, MVP is the
talking about hurting
smallest.
people, and then MVP can still fuck you up because that dude is like a jiu-jitsu master and stuff like that. Yeah. So he can still take you out. So talk about hurting people. That's a hurt syndicate right there. So,
yeah, for sure.
It's more. I'm curious to see where it heads forward. I'm just like, come on, Bobby, why leave WWE if you're just gonna be staying in the mid card?
Well, I mean, but there's a thing to just obviously opening that door, like just doing things differently. You know what I'm saying? I mean, were we actually going to bring back hurt business in WWE? I guess they felt that time has passed. They wanted to keep doing it, or we know for a fact, like in shoot, that MVP and Bobby wanted to keep doing it. So if you got the chance to do it, then it's just unfortunate. Like Drew said, his peak originally was during the pandemic, when nobody was there. So it's like, it went unnoticed, you know what I'm saying? To relatively, you know what I'm saying? To like the non, day ones of like, wrestling fandom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd hope so for sure. I'm with you. Obviously, I want them like that. That's a face off that could happen. You talking about faction warfare. That's 4-on-4, like men, because you got Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac. And like I said, that's 1,000 pounds. They definitely outweigh them. Moxley is the biggest one out of all those guys. So they ain't scaring nothing as far as the Hurt Syndicate is concerned. If all four of them is standing together in suits, you know what I'm saying? Like that ain't nothing. That ain't nothing.
But you got to get somebody else outside of MVP though.
Why? Oh, you mean physically? Okay, yeah. To take butts. He wasn't a tag match, but
I mean, but I'm like, MVP is not going to be fighting every time,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even still, even if it's 3-on-4, like that would be my argument. Is like that's why they're not there yet, because right now it would just be, to go to your point, if MVP isn't physical, it's just Shelton and Bobby, in there against all of the Death Riders. So, but yeah, add Powerhouse Hobbs to that. That's a push. That weight is probably even between those three and those four guys on the other side. So.
And there's some good one-on-ones. Like I'd see Powerhouse Hobbs versus Claudio. Obviously, you get Bobby Lashley versus John Moxley, and then that would leave you Shelton with like
was-
what
Wheeler
Pac
Yuta.
or Wheeler
I was gonna
Yuta.
Yeah, I could see Wheeler Yuta getting like the seatbelt, like getting the seatbelt pinned on him, and then he gets a tongue lashing again or something. But yeah, there. Yeah, let's not talk about it too much. We're getting too hopeful. Like we're booking all this stuff, and none of it's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
let's move on. The mids that we got, Jamie Hayter going over Julia Hart. Man, let me tell you that I love Julia Hart because it's like when you watch the product from day one and it goes from cheerleader all the way to this, like so good. Directly after I watched this match, I literally just played her theme song for like 5 times in a row because I love this theme song for Julia Hart. And the part that the crowd always says at the crescendo, the house always wins, the House of Black. But for the second week in a row, we get like after the match, Jamie Hayter putting over Julia Hart the same way that Will Ospreay put over Buddy Murphy last week. And basically, like, you don't need a leader and all that type of stuff. And you can stand on your own. And it's like, we're not breaking I don't want to see the House of Black break up. Like, what the hell? But also, thank you, Wrestle Talk, for doing this work. And I didn't do it, but they were talking about it. But apparently, Brody King, he's already filed, some trademarks for the Hounds of Hell and Cerberus. And I was just like, oh, Cerberus is hard. Like, the three, I know the three-headed demon dog of like, oh, Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell, basically. Guards the gates of Hades. Then that's his name, is Cerberus. But I was like, that's a dope-ass faction name. Like, I like the sound of that. So I'm hoping that they stay together. And that's really what I took out of this, because the match obviously was great between these women. I'm a JB Hayter fan also. Like I said, a great finisher is just a simple one. Can be done on anyone. Haterade is just a chicken wing lariat. Just take your head off. A short arm lariat. So great stuff. I like these ladies.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot more insight into this. Obviously, I liked the match. I thought it was a good match overall. Where I really liked this was the mutual respect afterwards. When Hayter was like, if you want a round 3, you got it whenever you want it. And so I was like, that's what's up. And then it just, my mind, when I was like, that'd be an interesting tag team. I mean, you already kind of have the names already there, like Hearts and Haters.
Oh, that's a good. There you go. That's
a good little tag team if you had one. Heart and Haters, man. Like, so that's where my mind went, and I was like, I like the mutual respect. So not much else to add to what you said, but that's kind of where my overall thoughts were on this matchup.
Yeah, actually, look this up. Make sure I'm not lying. I'm pretty sure it's Greek mythology, but yeah, Cerberus. Come on. Of course, there's companies nowadays. It's freaking tech startups named Cerberus. The first thing I type in.
Of fucking course.
Mythology. There we go. Greek mythology. Yeah, Greek mythology. The three-headed dog that guards the gates of the underworld, Hades. He's also known as the Dog of Hades.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good sounding name, though. Because also, just because their name is House of Black or like Cerberus, that is an imposing name. But I think if you're Cerberus, that doesn't mean that you're automatically healed. You know what I'm saying? Because I do think that this group will undergo, maybe not necessarily like a visual change, like as far as their aesthetic, but I feel like there's got to be like an acknowledgement by them that obviously Malachi is not there anymore, because other people are acknowledging it. So, and putting them over. So I feel like there's got to be like Brody King has got to like, just reestablish the group, not as like necessarily the leader, but that's what I see right now.
Okay. I'll get into my last mid in here, and it's a pretty quick one. Swerve over AR Fox. Not too familiar with AR Fox, but from the match, I was like, oh, this is pretty nice. I enjoyed the match. I thought it worked out well. I thought it was pretty funny when Ricochet came out with like the scissors, and then Prince Nana had the pipe. I'm like, bro, a pipe or scissors? Pipe or scissors? I'm taking the pipe. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening here? So I thought that was a little, not
It's
cringe,
smart.
but
It's
I
smart
thought it
by
was.
Prince Nana, if anything,
No,
because it's
I
even
guess
the
like
odds.
I just the scissors. Just I'm like, it's like the screwdriver. It's just. Can we find better weapons here?
Well, I think that's part of the appeal is that it's so ridiculous that like we all know what scissors are. We know that they're sharp and for cutting, and it's like for you to choose that as specifically a stabbing and slashing weapon, that's like psychotic. So that's why I like the weapon.
Yeah, but I said when you have somebody that has like a full lead pipe versus like scissors where he's barely even like holding them out. It's not like he's
doing it like this.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? I was like, come on now. If I had a pipe against a guy with some scissors, I'm whooping your ass.
Absolutely. Because you could come in with those scissors. And if anything, straight up, I'll tell you, I'm going dirty.
Especially with his bald ass head. Come on now.
Exactly. Like, you think I'm going to like try, you going to duck and weave? I'm going straight for the patella. That kneecap is gone with that lead pipe. And then I'm gonna go to work and that's it.
Yep.
But
well, that's where, but I like the match. Yeah. AR Fox, I was like, okay, dude, I see what you're doing. Obviously, you weren't going to win this match, but you look good in it. So shout out to AR Fox. And then obviously Swerve is probably the best thing going on the entire
Swerve and
program.
Hangman, yeah.
No, not yes. Swerve and Hangman are probably the two best things that the AEW has going in general. So shout out to them. I
didn't even put Hangman on here. I'll mention it. But yeah, just to elaborate on AR Fox, because I know you didn't know much about him. They go back to Lucha Underground when Swerve was Killshot still, and he was wearing the mask. And that story is so crazy. So that story between AR Fox, like you notice he had like the cargo pants on, like that's been his look because he's a veteran, and so is Swerve. So their story in Lucha Underground was that Killshot, where Swerve was the heel, and AR Fox had like dragged himself from like the deserts of Iraq because, you know, he was like, I did have a partner. He was the best thing that ever happened to me until he left me for dead. Until AR Fox was saying that Swerve had like left him for dead out in like Iraq and betrayed him and shit like that. And that was their whole rivalry in fucking Lucha Underground. So yeah, these guys go way back and great chemistry also. So these guys are always going to put a great match on. And with Swerve being who he is, and obviously a former world champion in AEW, obviously, like if I had your knowledge in this, I'd be like, oh yeah, no way in hell. But only because I know the history where it's like, and Ricochet came out. I'm like, oh, is Ricochet going to cause this interference? You know, there's that 1% chance, if not like a sliver. But AR Fox has literally never done anything in AEW. Like I'm pretty sure half of his matches have actually been against Swerve because of this, you know, extended rivalry that they've been having, you know, because he really is like kind of like a call up for a season kind of thing. And you don't even see him. I guarantee you we don't see him this week. I guarantee it. We don't see AR Fox this week on television.
Add him to the Hurt Syndicate.
Hey, yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Add him to the Hurt Syndicate with Powerhouse Hobbs. Then you got it.
My mid, I would have this, mid-low, Cope, TKO, and Pac, where the reason that this is mid-low, like, not really into, like, still the whole FTR or rated FTR and Death Riders thing, because I agree with you that Edge should not be in that position, at least as far as, like, squaring up with Moxley. The thing that I did enjoy about this match is that this was not like a typical like WWE style match where, I mean, obviously this is AEW, but the thing about AEW is like, since they are an amalgamation of like, I don't want to say the leftovers of everybody else, but like, you know, people come from all styles and stuff, and they have plenty of people who wrestle the WWE style or like, you know, the Lucha Underground style or whatever. This was not, and seeing Pac and Edge or Cope immediately think WWE style, right? Or even if they went to AEW a little bit more hard hitting, this was PWG like match, a pro wrestling guerrilla style match where kind of like almost like a wrestler. Like for me, I consider myself a wrestling nerd in this way, where it's like, I know the moves. So like I spent so much time on like, WWE 2K growing up or whatever it was, SmackDown versus Raw, putting move sets together and stuff, and like wanting to have a certain aesthetic and like all this type of things. Like Pac pulling out, or I mean, Cope pulling out like his own Hurricane Rana. We have never seen Cope do a Hurricane Rana ever in WWE, have you? Even when he was young and Edgy
I mean, if there was any time, it was probably when he was younger, but probably
ever. Exactly. Yeah.
I can't think on top of my head, but if he ever did it, it was probably in the late 90s.
Yeah. And also this is also something else where I like Gunther a lot, because he's very PWG, where it's like he's so physically powerful. He can beat you in multiple types of ways. You know what I'm saying? Like we know his finisher is the power bomb, right? Just that standing power bomb into the pin. But he's pinned people with lariats. He's pinned people with just a diving splash from the top rope. Like he can finish you a multitude of ways, and it's all believable. So Cope even finishing Pac with a TKO, did not see that coming, because obviously we're programmed that it's the spear, like after all these years. And that's what I just really like. So I guess it's more so this was Cope being experimental. That's what this was. That's clearly what, I think in shoot wise, that's what actually he was doing. He was like, all right, let me work on this. I got some stuff that we can work on. And Pac is like, technically, one of the best technical wrestlers. He's an outstanding seller. He spikes himself every time he takes a DDT, like RVD does. So I spent too much time on that, but that's why I actually did appreciate it. Just the different style that this match was.
That's fair. That's fair. Like I have no issues with that. It's just this is not my story.
Yeah, no, like I said, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm just like at this point with Edge, I'm like, I'm good, bro.
Yeah,
and I think that it's not an AEW thing. It's just like, again, we can move on as fans. One time we had Stone Cold and The Rock and The Undertaker. It's like we can move on, man. No one is bigger than the business. No one. I don't give a fuck if you're Hulk Hogan. No one's bigger than the business. Like, we don't need you. Not to say it's not nice to have you.
Not in this spot.
Even again, Ray. I'm like, I don't need Ray to be taking wins from people, especially when you really not doing anything other than to be there to sell merch and reach a demographic. But like my issues with Ray, I'm like, bro, if you are a Latin superstar and they put you with Ray, you're not doing anything. You're not going to be bigger than Ray.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And that's no fault of Ray. That's just more of the booking. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just that's what I say. Like the things that stick out for me, if you look at what it's like, it's the young people, it's the Ospreays, it's it's the Swerves,
MJF,
Hangmans, the MJFs when he has his good moments, like that. Those are the things that stick out for me more than the retreads.
Yeah.
Like I said, if Bobby is going to come to AEW and just be fighting for mid-card titles, then I'm like, bro, you could have done that anywhere.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up. Is that, like you said, it is a retread, the Hurt Syndicate. But if anything, it's still a spot that, you can say it's not doing anything for his career. But, what else? I think they're at the level of, like, what else do you have to prove, right? Like, we want to see the good booking of Hurt Syndicate. I don't necessarily need to see Edge, in that main spot. That's what I would rather move off of. But it's like, we can't deny that, like, Lashley is also in that same generation, and MVP, you know what I'm saying, and Shelton. But
but Lashley hasn't had the career success as Edge. Like, do I need to see Edge win? I keep saying, do we need to see Cope? Win the AEW World Championship? Hell no.
No.
Do we need to see Bobby win the AEW World Championship? I would say hell yeah. Even though Bobby's won, a WWE World title, it won the title.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's different. Bobby has just been like Bobby's always been borderline main event. Adam Copeland was a rated R superstar in 2005 and was world champion from that point on.
Yeah,
holding
basically.
the highest title in WWE. Like, we've seen you do everything, bro. You're 12-time tag team champion. You're like, you've done everything at this point. Now, at this point, for me, it's just again, it sounds crude because I'm like, yeah, this guy is coming from a broken neck injury. You know what I'm saying? That could possibly have never wrestled his entire life again. So it's like, you don't want to take that away from him. But as far as I'm like, man, I'm good. I'm good, honestly.
Yeah.
This is saying, Jericho, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I am.
Yeah, I get you.
There's times where it's like, can we just move on to the next? Can we just move on to the next person?
There's definitely credence to what you're saying, especially like when you're talking about already established main eventers or multiple time world champions. Like, we know who you are already. You know what I'm saying? Versus, like, I mean, Bobby is a former WWE champion. He won the main title, but it was once, and arguably the most eventful thing about him winning it is him losing it when Big E cashes in on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So there's something like to say there's meat on the bone as far as like the dominance of Bobby Lashley for sure. I did not have this on here, but just a quick mention. I love the segment of Hangman Page and Christopher Daniels after Hangman's match, when basically Christopher Daniels throws in the towel and he has his neck brace on, and he doesn't throw in the towel, but he tells Hangman at the top of the ramp, like, hey, the doctor said I'm never gonna wrestle again. You win. Like, congratulations, in that dry way. And then so much, and it like broke Hangman a little bit where he says, what? You hear him whisper it? And I was just like, oh man, are we getting like it broke that permanent scowl that's on his face. Like, ever since his rivalry with Swerve, he's just had this permanent scowl, and he's so good at just hanging on to it every time you see his face. And Christopher Daniels broke through that. Like, you ended a man's career, and it looks like he was not happy about that. So just a shout out to that. Streak.
Maybe a losing streak comes down Hangman's way.
Yeah, that's
he has a guilty conscience.
Yeah, something like that. That'd be cool. But I like that. My very last shake, or actually, this is a hard right turn. We're done with AEW, people, but we're still at the coffee shop.
Yeah, I have one AEW thought, but I'll let you get it because it's outside of Dynamite, but I'll let you go.
Okay. On TNA, Joe Hendry had his first title defense where he defeated Matt Cardona, and which obviously Joe Hendry just got it. He just won it this weekend, and he's definitely going to be in the Rumble, right? What's happening? But JBL keeps interfering in these matches, in Joe Hendry's matches. And once again, like, just like how you said, you're not familiar with certain aspects of, storylines and wrestling. I'm like, why is he always here? Why is he always giving people clotheslines from hell out of the crowd? Like, and it's funny because he's dressed up like he's like the town sheriff or something like that. And I'm just like, and then finally on commentary,
it's like old school black. His name was like Blackjack Bradshaw before he just went to Bradshaw. That was his name way back. But that's the kind of like, that's kind of how it reminds me of when he comes out with like that look. It's like, oh, that's like Blackjack Bradshaw.
Yeah. And then I forget who's on the commentary. I think it's the former, what's his name? Oh crap. He used to sing in the WWE. He's their commentator. He was no, not Elias. He had a bald head. He kind of looks like Claudio. He was like, you want to hear me? What was this guy's name? Oh my gosh.
I'm blanking.
But I'll remember like right when we're done with the pod too. But he was like, they're in cahoots. That damn Joe Hendry and JBL are in cahoots. Because I was like, it happened even when he first challenged Nick Nemeth for the title. That same thing happened. So I'm just wondering what's going on with JBL. I guess I'll look into it later, but I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? He's always just giving people clotheslines. So
it's good to have JBL back because he was on Raw and he was doing like little commentary during the Ray and Kofi match, and I'm just like, man, JBL is so good on the mic. he's so
Yeah.
he's so good just giving commentary, because he was talking about, it's like, I never found myself in this position to root for a deadbeat like Rey Mysterio, but I can't forgive what Kofi Kingston and the New Day have become, or something like that nature. I'm just like, JBL, you're so good. You're so good at this.
Yeah.
My last thoughts before we move off from the bodega. This is outside of, not bodega, from the coffee shop of AEW. This is more real world talk, but there's been talk of just people wanting out of their contracts at AEW. Ricky Starks asked for his out. He got denied. Britt Baker apparently seems to be on the out, and people don't have good relationships with her. And obviously there is the Ray Phoenix-ness of it. I think Miro's possibly out. Malachi Black seems to be done with AEW. What are your thoughts on all of this talent in AEW seeming they want to move differently?
I mean, everybody has their own story. Obviously, everybody's situation is unique, but none of these things surprise me. Like, as a wrestling fan in general, if you're paying attention, like, yeah, some topics are like more hot button than others. Like, I would say, like, Britt Baker, like, her whole thing is like possible bullying and stuff like that, which is not cool. Versus to the other end of the spectrum, where it's like, you know, Ray Phoenix getting injury time, still getting put on his contract or whatever it is. And like Ricky Starks just generally not being used. So, I mean, everybody has their grievance. I think all of them are right to want out for themselves individually, like with the where they've been positioned in the company at this point. And honestly, as a wrestling fan, it's not like I'm gonna be missing them. Like not in a like, oh, we don't need you, but kind of in that vein where it's like you're just gonna show up on New Japan, or you're gonna show up on, you know, WWE or TNA. So I'm still gonna catch you. If you're still out here, I'm still gonna find you.
Yeah,
so,
you're still gonna be around. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's me as a wrestling fan. So that's interesting. I would like to I've never met like a specific just AEW fan. That would be interesting. To get like somebody's aspects on that, if they were more of an AEW fan than WWE, to get their thought on it. But like, I mean, as far as like the women's division go, like I told you, I felt like the DMD, her booking was great. Like, you know, she was a day one woman and all that stuff. And like, she has just been like on in my opinion, a downslide. Like even when, you know, she made her big return and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're getting DMD and Mercedes Moné. And that ends up being the worst match of, you know, Mercedes' initial like undefeated run.
Yeah.
You know, she gave Mercedes nothing. She gave Mercedes nothing in that. And this is so much so to like where we start having that conversation of like, oh, is Mercedes like slipping in like the top women's rankings, basically? And it's like, nah. So but all that other stuff, I mean, all that other stuff is like business is business. You know, I just see that as like the same thing that like, I guess WWE, we got used to like the annual, like, what was it, June or July when people will get released, or like, you know, twice a year. You just hear like 5-6 names, whatever. So like hearing all of those people, it's like, yeah, that's what I would expect, honestly. And then granted, Malachi specifically, his wife is over at AEW, or I mean, excuse me, at WWE. So it was like, that was where my thought went. I loved him in NXT, and I thought that it was just like, okay, he fell into like, that's when Vince was still there, I believe. So I think that's when he fell into like the whole Vince ain't fucking with that aesthetic on the main roster. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole tattoo, we already know that. So everybody, like,
but I mean, if you're able to get Penta over like this, I'm sure Malachi Black could do it just as well.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing that sticks out with me with that in regards is just it seems like when I guess you have it with Malachi, you have it with Britt Baker, and I feel like this might happen with somebody else, but there's always this notion of these people are hard to work with. and they're causing trouble in the backstage and things of that nature. And I'm like, why does it have to be like? It seems like whenever somebody leaves, it seems like it's on bad terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, can it just be like, hey, people just want to move on?
Yeah.
But speaking of moving on, before we move, we don't have anything really for Book of Wrestling this week, so I'll use this as the Book of Wrestling. But last week was TNA Genesis. We talked about loosely, and it was the first time NXT was also going to be put into it as well because of their recent partnership, and there were a lot of NXT show ups there. I forget who exactly showed up, but I think Cora Jade popped up there.
Yeah, Cora Jade had a face off with Masha Slamovich, the TNA Knockouts champion, and Fraxium was also there, and they had a face off
there
with,
as well.
Not the Rascals, somebody else. I think it might have been the Rascals.
Yeah, it was the Rascals because Wes Lee ended up costing the Rascals their title shot. The biggest thing though was really TNA specific, and I kind of realized this when the match was when the match was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Jordynne Grace versus Tessa Blanchard, and Tessa Blanchard winning.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that match was even happening, I was like, this has got to be Jordynne Grace's last match in TNA, because there is confrontation between Tessa Blanchard and Jordynne Grace. And I believe Jordynne Grace does not like Tessa Blanchard. And so for her to be in that match, lose her title to Tessa, I was like, oh wow, like she's leaving. And then on top of that, afterwards they had this whole backstage thing where they were showering Jordynne Grace with praise. They were basically saying like she's still like the true women's TNA champion and things of that nature. She was super emotional about it. She walks right past Tessa Blanchard. She was hugging everybody. She walked right past Tessa Blanchard. And it's funny because in that match, Tessa Blanchard, the fans were just saying like they had the chant that's like "you are racist" or something like chant during that match. So
they were giving her the smoke, bruh. They were giving it to her. Like,
it's interesting. It's interesting, but I mean, it seems like Jordynne Grace's time in TNA is officially up, and seems like it doesn't need to. It's almost unspoken that you're going to be on NXT in a couple weeks. You're going to be at the Royal Rumble for sure.
It's a worst kept secret, like Michael Cole said. Like, Jordynne Grace coming to NXT is the worst kept secret, the same way Penta was the worst kept secret for coming to Raw. Like, that was obvious. I didn't know she was holding a title because I was like, Masha Slamovich is the women's champion over there. If she had some other title, that's crazy. But
I could have sworn she had the title. Did she?
Nah, Masha Slamovich is the TNA women's champion. That was just like her last match. And I think that was the return of Tessa. So when did she lose the title?
Like
2-3 months ago.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm bringing.
That's why Cora Jade. Cora Jade brought up or she had the face off with the actual champion.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was just a singles match. Oh, sorry, that's my mistake. I thought that because I still was thinking Jordynne Grace still had the title on her and everything like that. I was like, yo, Jordynne Grace dropping the title to Tessa Blanchard? That's wild.
That would have been like, dare I say, Deshaun Watson like levels of a sin by TNA. If your last match for Jordynne Grace and you drop the title to a returning Tessa Blanchard, which your audience hates, like, bruh, that's not like when you're in those smaller venues and those fandoms are like way more intimate and they know those fucking stories of these people and shit. Like, you're gonna get way more unique stuff versus like a stadium wide chant. That's why you can get the "Hey Bailey" whole song in NXT more commonly than a stadium. But even still, like, for you to organically come up with "you are racist" in a pay-per-view,
loud and clear.
Exactly. Like that would have been a sin for sure. Dropping the title to Tessa Blanchard in a return, crazy.
I don't even know like the full extent of her racist past. I just know that she has, issues. But that's it's good to see that the WWE the wrestling audience is not full of complete assholes. and we can call out the real assholes.
For sure.
But yeah, beginning an NXT TNA relationship. It's already interesting to start off. So we'll see. Jordan, you think she goes to NXT or is she main roster?
Nah, she's gonna stack up in that awesome women's division that's right there right now. I think that's what's gonna happen. I think I can believe her. I can believe her being the first woman to ever hold the TNA championship and the NXT championship. I can believe that.
That should be fun.
You know, in her career.
That's big. What's up, man? Like, I forget. Did we have her as? Did she win the uppie for Women's Wrestler of the Year last year?
Oh, Jordan Grace.
Yeah, who did we give that to?
Tony Storm. I was like, it wasn't a chance. Storm. Not a chance in hell.
It's not. That's tough because to Jordan Grace to start off with a surprise Rumble entrance and then have that, year-long kind of growth, not only just in WWE, but then also on TNA as a TNA wrestler.
Yeah,
that's
the Juggernaut driver.
Impressive, but yeah, that's hard. But hey, she's definitely going to be up for an uppie next year.
Yeah,
Let's move over to the boutique.
This was absolutely the most mid show of the entire week.
It's been mid for like 3 weeks, man.
Yeah, I was like, bruh, like watching this one.
Honestly, I have this right now. I'm gonna change it just for the fact that we've been asking this for like months. But I'm moving Damian Priest debuting over Carmelo Hayes into Primo. Because it's honestly, thank God.
But it's needed. It's what's needed. We said that. Yeah, exactly.
Thank God that Damian Priest is off of Raw. I hope
you're right.
Judgment Day just leaves that man alone. And just let him just start off fresh. And then I actually like Carmelo Hayes versus Damian Priest as the first bit of rivalry for Damian Priest coming over to SmackDown. Because Carmelo, he's obviously got the ring work, and then his mic work as far as like the attitude and the arrogance is coming on real strong. That this is going to be a really good rivalry for the next few months. So I'm just glad it's something different. That's why I'm raising it up to Primo.
Yeah. No, you're right. I agree with that. It should be Primo just for being our predictions. Like I was like, I'm pretty sure that was the number one guy I said needed a change of scenery, So great in ring stuff, obviously, nothing less. Love seeing the South of Heaven every time sit out choke slam. All right. Well, yeah, we got. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but yeah, that's a very good pairing. Like, I'm pretty sure I said either last week or 2 weeks ago. Like, in the same vein as like Will Ospreay, Carmelo's there right now. Like, just physically in his prime, and like can do absolutely everything you ask of him. Like in ring, it's kind of ridiculous, honestly, and awesome selling on top of that. So, yeah, I look forward to it.
MCMG. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, all right, hold on, because this gets done because he's a former world champion, so you can't slot him into like U.S. title picture. So now my immediate thought, I was about to move on, but I'm like, how? Because the WWE Championship is obviously going to be tied up this entire time until WrestleMania. So I guess I'm like answering my own question, but I guess it would be, you're going to have to wait until after Mania to put him in the picture, right? He's not going to have any type of conflict
King of the Ring.
With King of the Ring is after Mania.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like, where are there opportunities for them to thrust themselves into that contendership? Would be King of the Ring at the best. Yeah. Because again, there's like you can't even consider the Rumble because whoever wins the Rumble is coming after the Cody's title.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
The best thing would be, I guess, it would be King of the Ring, winning that King of the Ring.
Gets to the finals and gets screwed over by Cody Rhodes.
I would love to see Carmelo Hayes and Kalani Jordan win King and Queen of the Ring.
I told you I love power couples. Give us power couples, yo. That's one of my I've always wanted that. Give me that. Acknowledge it.
Especially because Kalani already kind of does the little crown thing as like her
She
pose, and
does
I'm
it.
like, all right, I got that, and I could see Carmelo Hayes with a crown,
Yeah.
looking like the Fresh
And
Prince. Like,
the fact that we don't have Andrade like ringside by his wife every single time, like just talking about how awesome the queen of the WWE is, that's a sin, in my opinion.
yeah,
Like, that's what I would be doing. Like, yeah, she's the greatest of all
especially
time.
Latin that bitch up. And it's
Exactly.
like, yeah, just speaking all this Latin shit and just being like, yeah, Charlotte, all this, Charlotte, all that.
And Charlotte really is amazing, you know, because even before she got hurt, you could see her adopting some of his moveset. She does that
Yeah.
like kick up spinning elbow now, and she did the, you know, top rope moonsault into the standing moonsault. I love Andrade. That's one of my favorite moves in all of wrestling. Like for you to do a standing moonsault, land on your feet, and then do it again. It's crazy. But anyway, too long for them. But yeah, acknowledge the power couples, yo. That was my little soapbox. I
Well,
love that shit.
before we move on to everything else, I guess since we brought her up, I have this in my shake.
Yeah.
Charlotte returns at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
We've been predicting it. When is it going to happen? We've been projecting it, but we got a vignette of Charlotte saying that she's going to be at the Royal Rumble. And Charlotte coming in a little different. I don't know if it was just because we haven't seen Charlotte in such a long time, but even in that vignette, I'm like, your facial structure looks a little different. I don't know if that's just like the contouring on the makeup or anything, or if she got surgery. I don't really care. I'm just like, you look a little different, but
I was gonna say a little.
we haven't also seen Charlotte just being like straight sex appeal. That was like a very sexy vignette. And I don't know if you saw it in full, but I'm like, we've never seen Charlotte like that. So I'm curious to see how Charlotte comes back.
Yeah, she's never really fully leaned into the glam, which I think this is a great time to do it. I mean, unfortunately, you know, she was injured. Like she came back and then got injured again, which put her out for a year. So like for her to just be this like literal queen, you know, as she calls herself, I think is appropriate. She should, you know, come back with that more hoity-toity kind of attitude. Like, yeah, it's cute what you're doing, Tiffy. Like, it's Tiffy time right now, but it's Charlotte's clock. You know what I'm saying?
This is why I say that I have two things. This is why this goes into where did you have this on your? Did you have this? No, you didn't have
I
it
didn't
on
put
here.
it on there. No.
But this is where after they had the promo, the vignette, Tiffany Stratton comes out. And then that's when you get all the women coming out, and then you get into like, I'm gonna win the Rumble, I'm gonna win the Rumble, I'm gonna win the Rumble, and it's just like, no, that person that we just saw in that vignette,
that whole she's gonna win the Royal Rumble.
She's gonna win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, no, literally, that was the first thought in my head because like it was great how they sequenced that. Like you pointing out the sequencing, it's like all of you are fighting in this ring when this woman is gonna fly up on a jet. She's gonna land on the roof of the stadium, walk down. It's gonna be her entrance, and she's gonna win the Royal Rumble.
She's gonna win the Rumble. It's game set match. It's game set match. Charlotte, you know what I'm saying? Like, my other thing, Charlotte last week or a week or so ago had a picture with Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned this last week.
I don't know if this is a, you know, hey, I'm backstage and we're just, you know, girls being friends and taking pictures type of shit.
Girls being girls.
Do I gotta add the list of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson as suspects on the jumping of Jade Cargill?
Yeah.
I think I might have to add them as suspects on that.
Too tight. They're a little too tight with
that again with the sex appeal that Charlotte's coming through, and then you're coming in with the sex appeal of the metaphor. It's just like that'd be a very dominant trio.
Yeah. She would be doing a lot for them. That would be awesome.
I don't know why Charlotte would do that, but again, it seems like we're gearing up for Charlotte versus Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania. And
if that's the case, then Charlotte's definitely winning, and I'm booking that now. 15-time champion Charlotte. That'd be wild. At least her losing to Rhea had to hit her with 2 riptides, and one of them was off the top before she won that match. So, yeah, I don't think Tiffany's gonna be able to put down the queen. Not with this. No.
I would hope not.
Yeah.
Because again, Charlotte is probably, top 3
Yeah,
wrestlers
for
in the
sure.
world. Like, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be an interesting match. But hey, I'm sorry to have to do this to my metaphor. I gotta put you on the suspect list.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I gotta put you
Because
probably above Bailey. I think Naomi is probably still number 1 on that list.
but I don't
But
understand what their motivation would be. Like, how do
that's
you
the
see
problem.
them with Charlotte?
That's the problem I struggle with.
So you still don't have a motive. You just see them with Charlotte, and you're like, y'all are suspicious. Like, that's your whole thought. Like, bruh, see, this is why we got so many people to cover unjustly locked up right now because of thought processes like these. You don't even got a motive.
If you're trying to rise to the top, wouldn't you want to hitch your wagon to Charlotte Flair? If you're Jakara and Lash?
Okay, but what does that have to do with Jade at all? That has nothing to do with Jade. The
Tag
Jade
team
and
champs. You making them weak.
Sure. So
It's early thought process. I'm still grinding it out.
All right, yeah, you're gonna have to work on that. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying I'm adding them to the list. They're light suspects. They're light suspects on the attack of Jade.
That basically, like, just this conversation. I mean, that really takes care of my women's like 3v3 shake point that I have right here also, because it was all about literally just them declaring for the Rumble. It was more so than the match, because it ends in the most devastating finisher in all of women's wrestling, the roll up. So the schoolboy roll up specifically, and that's how it ends. So it was really just about that whole segment. But yeah, Charlotte's winning the Rumble for sure.
Yeah, as soon as I was like, oh, Tiffany Stratton comes out right after that vignette, I was like, oh, okay, I see where WrestleMania is going. I only need those 2 seconds is like end of Charlotte promo, Tiffany Stratton comes out. Okay, everything's been figured out here.
Might as well stay with the women in the shake right here. We both got Michin and B-Fab going over Chelsea Green and Piper Niven.
Yeah, this could have been Reggie, not for the women, but for the duration of this match.
I'm so glad.
I literally sat down and then I got up. I sat down on my couch, and then the women started coming out. Right. Then I got up and I went to the kitchen to do something real quick. By the time I walked back to the couch, the match was over.
Right.
I was like, that has got to be the quickest match ever.
My first thought, parallel to that, is I remember watching the entrances and hearing B-Fab's music, and I'm like, okay, we're getting it. And then my thought, I was like, these entrances are going to be longer than the match. I said that in my head before, because everybody got full, I mean, granted, Piper and Chelsea are combined now because, that's Piper's her Secret Service, but everybody got their whole 2-minute, thing and walked down. So I was like, this match ain't going to be longer than 5 minutes. And sure enough, it just was the next match in order to extend the rivalry clearly between Chelsea Green and Michin. And I really like the fact that Michin actually pinned Chelsea Green. And it's not because you shouldn't pin your champions. I think you actually should. These champions, in a sense, honestly should lose more so, you would think, because they are, I mean, it sounds like you're minimizing their division, but you kind of are. You know what I'm saying? If you're putting women, if you're slotting him here, but it's we know Chelsea Green is susceptible. She's not the best wrestler in the world, which is why she's the Women's United States champion. You know what I'm saying? So she can get got. And it's just very, I think if this was a men's tag team match, let's say it was, the men's United States champion, and that, I wouldn't have had it that way. You know what I'm saying? Or it would be more surprising that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, just want to point that out. But yeah,
I just wanted more time. Again. I just wanted more time, man. That's all. And I'm not gonna put that in Reggie because of the women. That's more of a Triple H thing. But that was wild. I was still in the kitchen, and then I heard the end of the bell ring. I was like, "Yo, I didn't even get to really see the match."
I forget which announcer it was, but at least they were doing their best to put over B-Fab as Stacy Keibler. It was like, man, look, she got the longest legs out here, and brought up Stacy Keibler, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So because we need more character from her, but the commentators are the other piece of the storytelling, very major piece of the storytelling, other than the wrestlers, like them actually putting the words in our heads, of like what character motivation and what all that type of stuff. So that's good. But yeah, that's all I had on them. But yeah, we said super mid show.
Yeah.
MCMG over Pretty Deadly. My guys lose again.
That's the disappointing part of this match. I was just like, I get that we're trying to push MCMG, and I got it, but like, they won last week against who they beat. Los Garzas.
You like Los Garzas, yeah. Thank you.
And that's with Pretty Deadly interference. Los Garzas didn't come out, and Pretty Deadly lost this match. The match itself was really good. I just wish Pretty Deadly got the win.
We got to get a win. Like you said, we're talking about Edge and Christian gets a win by now. Like, bruh.
Because right now it seems like we're keeping the tag team division just between, like, we're not adding multipliers in this, right? Right now it's going to be DIY versus MCMG, and I'm like, I wish there was a little bit more variance between the challengers and not just like, it's our time now.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, you did bring up the fact of like, we see that this can be like another TLC 3, tag teams, like revival type of thing. But the thing about that is, like, at that point in time, all of those tag teams were champions, or like, recently in your mind as champions. So it's like, that's what establishes them. Pretty Deadly still never held them. So I'm like, it's going to be rough to get there. And Street Profits, they not even on TV at this point. So we need some more. And then now with, do you consider the Bloodline tag team still?
Yeah, if they want to, but they don't need to.
Okay. They don't need to. Exactly. You wouldn't slot them there. I wouldn't slot them there. So
yeah,
it's kind of rough out here in these tag team streets, but it can
I don't think the tag team division is in a better place because the match was good. Again, I think everything that I've been saying for the last month about the tag team division is still true. I still think that we're still getting the best tag team wrestling that we've seen in a while because we're actually working with real tag teams and not people that are thrown together. And so that's why I still have this match in high regards. I just wish there was a little bit more variance between who's winning and who's losing. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Because you would need
MCMG
Los Garzas win.
If MCMG is going to beat Los Garzas because of interference, because of Pretty Deadly's poor interference, it's like, fine, get that win. But maybe Pretty Deadly gets the win over MCMG.
Exactly.
And then maybe Los Garzas gets the win over Pretty Deadly. And then at that point, it's like, okay, you guys pretty much have this triangle of who's winning versus who. But right now, it just seems very...
There's only two major contenders. It's straightforward.
It's straightforward. It's MCMG basically trying to get their titles back from DIY. And I'm like, man, I wish some of these other contenders could also be vying for it as well at the same time. So it doesn't necessarily need to culminate it doesn't necessarily need to culminate in like a 3-way tag match of some sort. But I do wish there was more fight climbing up the mountain rather than it's like, okay, those three are going to figure it out, but really MCMG is going to beat both of them. Then it's going to be MCMG versus DIY. And it's like, I wish there was a little bit of, I wish either Pretty Deadly or Los Garzas had something in their back pocket that gave them a valid reason as to why they should be fighting for the tag team champions. But I do think at the end of the day, like, we're still getting the best tag team wrestling that we've seen in a very long time from WWE. So that's still a positive.
Yeah. Then lastly, KO winning over Jimmy Uso. I did like just the beginning, like earlier on in the episode, when KO is out there bitching and shit, and then Jimmy comes out. And he's like, no, cut that stupid ass music off. That music sucks. I just thought that was really funny because I was like, KO is very, fourth wall breaking as a character too. Like, he's very aware, just like Drew. A whole lot of good points, right? And for him to be like, that music sucks, I'm like, I wonder if people backstage are like hating the organ on, Jimmy's music. But I was like, I like Jimmy's music. You like Jimmy's music?
Yeah, I mean, he's still got the OG music, right?
Nah, it changed. I mean, it's more, it gives you an organ solo in the background, kind of like some Mob Boss kind of shit. And then you get the Uso, same as his brother still. And then it's like more bass heavy, I guess. But
Okay. Is it a remix or is it a new song? I can't think of it right now, but
I don't
I feel
know.
like it's
I don't
just
know
a
the
remix.
details. I think it might be,
Yeah.
it's a remix, like slowed down or something. But yeah. But yeah, KO either way, gets the win and basically is about to destroy Jimmy Uso. Also, he wants to hit this package pile driver
on the announce table, but again, them reinforced announce tables, you are not doing that.
Yeah, he wants to do it, and then we get our champion coming down for the save, right? So the WWE champion versus the rightful WWE champion, so he calls himself. But this match was good, and it went about as how I expected.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like just for the week, we're just keeping them hot. You know what I'm saying? So that's what this match was.
I hope we get Jimmy into the level of Jay. Because if I had to pick between the two, I like Jay, but I'm more of a Jimmy guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, come on, Jimmy. You could, get you something. Get you a singles
Yeah.
title, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Get you a singles title.
And then the
ahead.
last thing I was gonna say, the last thing. Actually, I'll wait. Because I need to hold back. It is my champion of the week. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's move over to this All-Star Pro Bowl pop-up of Saturday night's main event in San Antonio, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
4 matches on the card, and plus KO and Cody Rhodes will be having a contract signing for their match next week. So that will take up at least the 5th spot for however long that takes. But yeah, let's go through these matches. This will just be for fun, and we won't count it to the overall record. So no pressure.
Yep.
I don't know if this is going to be the order of the matches. This is what I just pulled up from Wikipedia. But first one we have on here, World Heavyweight Championship match, Gunther versus Jey Uso.
Gunther.
Yeah. It's going to be Gunther, though I will say Kaz on the Masked Man show made a very good, gave some really good rationale as to seeing Jey Uso win this and saying that, this is Saturday night's main event, probably the main event with main event Jey Uso. That's a triple main event. And Kaz was saying, you talk about
the main event name.
Yeah. It's like we talk about Jey Uso being the main event, Jey Uso, but is he really the main event if he's not really in the main event? And what kind of look would it be to have Jey Uso go over on Gunther on Saturday night's main event, and then everybody doing the whole, yeet chant and things of that nature? That sounds good and all. I don't see that happening, but what I might see happening, Jay almost pulls it out, but Gunther does some slick shit. Like some underhanded shit.
He cheats.
To cheat to kind of win it. And then maybe he gets his get back at the Royal Rumble.
Okay. I can see that.
And then because I can see, would you rather have that moment? No doubt that it's on NBC, right? A national audience. But it's in San Antonio in a basketball arena, right?
Yeah.
Next, in 2 weeks, they're going to be at where the Colts play. I forget the name of the stadium.
Lucas Oil Field.
You're going to be at Lucas Oil Field. Wouldn't you have that moment at Lucas Oil?
I mean, the thing is for me is that I do think I would rather have it at main event, just because that does immediately that puts in my head transitional champion, right? And if that's the case, then this is because we believe that the title is safe because Gunther has it. If Jay has it, we're like, this title is changing again at Mania. You know what I'm saying? If not before Mania, it'll probably change before Mania. So that puts Elimination Chamber as the top of my list at that point in time, because now it's open to CM Punk, you're open to Seth, you're open to all of these guys, which one of them will have the title. Like, it would not be crazy for me to see like Jay wins at main event. We got Royal Rumble. This is that's what would be hard though, because it's like I would imagine Gunther winning it back at Rumble. It's hard to see when you go from like he hasn't lost effectively in a year. You know what I'm saying? His first loss in 2 years was to Sami at Mania last year, so it's hard to believe that. But if by miracle Jay could beat Gunther twice, like he beats him at main event and he retains at Royal Rumble, now every single card is on the table for that Mania main event at Elimination Chamber, setting that whole thing up.
The way I see it is there is, tingling. It's in the atmosphere of a Gunther versus Goldberg match.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to see Goldberg in a title match with Gunther?
No, I do not. I didn't want to see him last time.
I will be happily fine seeing Gunther face Goldberg, but no title on the line. And so my again, this is my wild fantasy booking. I don't think is going to happen. But let's say Jay ends up losing tonight, getting his get back at the Royal Rumble, winning it at the Royal Rumble. My early prediction for the Rumble winner, Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
Now Roman's got a choice to make.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go after Cody or do you go after Jay?
Which I think it would be obvious that you should go after Cody, but then I guess that would be Roman reminding us that he's a heel. That's what that storyline would be if he chose Jay, because I've been sharp. He's been a heel the whole time. He hasn't changed. So if he's like, hey, it's over with Cody on that type of shit, that was way too hard of a fight. I actually lost. I know I can beat the shit out of my cousin, though. That's some wild shit and take his title.
I wouldn't be mad at that. But
that's a choice, though. That's definitely a story. That's a storyline. I ain't mad at it.
That's a choice. And then, again, if anybody would have the leverage, wouldn't Roman be the one be like, nah, I'm going to use this. I'm going to challenge both of y'all at WrestleMania. Night 1 and Night 2.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to take that away from him?
I mean, immediately CM Punk comes to my head because Paul Heyman owes him a favor. So I'm like, if he's challenging if Roman is champion by Mania, then that's the favor, or some involvement with the world title picture. Like CM Punk wants the world title. So
yeah. My whole thing is, at the end of the day, as it relates to Gunther possibly losing this title, the reason that you take the title off of him is because no one wants to see Gunther versus Goldberg for the World Heavyweight Championship.
No, I do not. Please,
I would gladly take Gunther versus Goldberg as a singles match, even at WrestleMania. That will be perfectly fine. Because we know the outcome, regardless if the title is on the line or not, Gunther is winning that.
Yeah.
But we don't need Gunther versus Goldberg for the heavyweight championship like it actually means something. I just want to see Gunther just destroy Goldberg.
Yeah.
And so take the title off of him and let him not have to worry about the title and just go about it as like, I'm a better wrestler than you. Mm-hmm. You're a one-trick pony. I'm the real wrestler. And I'm going to show you that. And so that's my hope for why Jey Uso at some point, if he was the one, to be able to pull it off. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. Intercontinental Championship, Braun Breaker versus Sheamus.
This is the one that's actually the most toss up out of all of them because we want to see Sheamus win, right? Mm-hmm. This would be the lasting image for sure of Saturday night's main event. I want a bigger stage for Sheamus, which is why I would. But I feel like he loses us so much, right? Like he's been in this scenario, but I'm like, at this point, like I said, I want this at Mania. Like at this point, you might as well. Like we already on the road, right? So you waited for a year. You can wait. These last 2 months. So for that reason only, just because as a fan of Sheamus, I want him to have a bigger moment. I'll put Braun Breaker, but if he wins, it would not surprise me, and this will probably be the match of the night for sure. I can see that.
Yeah, I want to go with Sheamus, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Braun. I'm just gonna be stuck from the last time we had a Saturday Night's main event, and then it was thrown out that there's only been like 3 title changes ever that happen on Saturday Night's main event. And I'm like, okay, is this gonna be one? But at some point, it's like, what is the point of watching this if everything's gonna be so predictable, right? Like something's got to be happening that is not predictable.
I would say, well, it's on NBC. It's network television, so it's for the most casual of casuals. So, like, if
But
you still
don't you want to
got,
watch a
like,
title change though? Like everybody wants to see a title change.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But if anything, like I said, they're going to give you a lasting image. That's what these are for. They're going to give you something to stick out in your mind.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first bit. If this is a straight up singles match, they're probably gonna level it up on the next time they face each other. So Braun Breaker to win this one. Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu.
Fatu. He'll get his first win ever, like as a solo guy.
Yeah.
Fatu.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Jacob as well. But honestly, I would not be surprised if this match ended as a double double count out.
Yeah. Or a no contest. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Just destruction. The destruction couldn't be contained. So,
well, yeah, like my first thought would be like, is this where the ring breaks? But I'm like, well, you still have other things on the card.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess like you can't just destroy the ring. But I can see this at a point where this maybe leads into like the state, like the stands or whatever. They go through a big fall, and then both Jacob and Braun Strowman are basically down for a 10 count. And maybe that leads us to a last man standing match between Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, there we go. But meat on meat collision.
If I had to pick a singular person, gotta go with Jacob Fatu. This is like his first single match in like a year.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think it actually is his first singles match on WWE.
If he's ever been in a match, it's usually been in a tag team match of some sort.
Exactly. So. He's only had face-off with people so far.
Last match, Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, Women's Championship.
Sorry, Nia. Yeah, sorry. Nia. It's not even up for discussion, really.
Should be a good match, though. Should be a good match.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're not counting this.
I know.
Let's wrap the show up.
For sure. We took our sweet time with this.
Yeah. You got the only champion of the week this week. I was slacking.
Yeah, I couldn't think of. I have another one in my head, but I couldn't think of a name up for it. But in AEW, who got slapped? Somebody got slapped backstage, and I was like, God damn! Like slapped the taste out of his mouth.
Oh no, it was
Or was that NXT?
It was NXT. It was Wesley, Trick Williams.
Oh yeah,
smacked the hell out of what's his face?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Wesley.
I was trying to think of like the the pops, make you slap your mama. That was the slap, but that's what. But the actual official one, this is way worse because I couldn't think of a good example. But I call this the childish nana nana boo boo title for trolling. This is going to KO for me noticing like during the match, because he came down and he was wearing his KO merch. And then when he comes down for the main event, you see him wearing a neon shining light t-shirt and saying how he shouldn't be mad because you're going to get some of the money from it. And so like, you just like insulting this man with like disrespected his wife like on your chest. Like, come on, dog. Like, what you think was
Hey,
gonna happen?
KO's a good troll, man. KO's a good troll.
That's why I thought was funny. So because at first it was like, since he's been so enamored with like caught up with Cody, that's why I was giving it to Champion. I'm like, oh, okay, this is just going towards everybody now. Like anybody you don't like, he'll like, rip on your merch, make a parody of your merch or whatever.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. Kevin, he's been killing it. I hope it works out for him. I hope it ends up at some point. I don't know when, but I hope within the next 6 months it ends up with Kevin Owens winning the world. Obviously, he's aiming for the biggest title that the company's got, but I hope it ends up because again, he hasn't held that title since he first won it.
Yeah,
which was almost 8 years ago at this point now. So
one and done.
If anybody deserves another chance at the title or even holding that title, Kevin.
But him and Finn are in the same boat with that. Yep.
Yeah.
Staring down the barrel at. I mean, shit.
Hey, Finn has a better chance. Finn has a better chance at getting at the World Heavyweight Championship than Kevin has at getting at the Undisputed.
Well, true. Yes. Very true.
But
but that was my champion of the week, KO.
Yeah, I slacked this week, and I think I slacked last week. Did I not have a champion last week? Oh, no, I had it. I had one. They called me Mr. Glass because Javon Evans got his jaw broke with the quickness last week.
Crazy.
So I'll try to double up next week, and we'll make sure to have some Book of Wrestling because we were off this week on the Book of Wrestling. But that does it for us. Episode 29 of the Book of Wrestling. I don't know who 29 is on our favorite sports numbers as far as birthdays, but
29 was Cox Communications Channel for Nickelodeon growing up. So that's honestly the first 29 that came to my head when I saw
that. Was Nickelodeon. 50 was Nickelodeon for me.
Yeah.
30 though. I'll shout out Brian Mitchell. Should be in the Hall of Famer. Episode 30 next week, and hopefully next week I'll just be 1 week away from a Super Bowl game with my Washington Commanders against these goddamn. Well, if it's next Saturday, then we got one more week until the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But hey, I'm pulling for if we make it to the Super Bowl. Give me the goddamn Chiefs. Give me that. Yeah. I'm sorry, Buffalo, but if I got a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl for the first time, I'm trying to take out the goddamn champs.
And then
I'm trying to stop the three-peat.
It's already the best rookie season ever, and if you stop the 3P too, it's the greatest playoff run ever. Like regardless of quarterback, honestly, in the history. Like because
I would put it up there with the 07 Giants.
It's gonna be a road game.
I would put it up there with the 07 Giants beating the Patriots, the undefeated Patriots.
I think it's more impressive than that. If y'all beat the Chiefs too, that's more impressive than that because. That was the first time they beat them. They were a wild card that year too. But
yeah,
either way, yeah, it's a push at the least. At the very least, it's a push. Yeah. Like those are the two greatest runs in my opinion, and there's no conversation. A rookie, though, that's where I'm like, that's where it's like that pushes it. Way at least, like Eli had some years under his belt. At least he was there for like 4 years.
Yeah, that was his fourth year. That was like his fourth or third year. Yeah,
like, that's your prove it. Like your contract's ending. Year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're like he got the bag after that. So it's like for you to do this in your first year, repeat, come on, devil worshippers,
man.
The Chiefs.
We are at right now, it's 1:46 p.m. East Coast time. This game starts at 3:00 tomorrow. So right now we are 25 and 15 minutes. 25 hours and 15 minutes away from this game starting. I cannot wait.
From the biggest game of your life.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Until next time, everyone. Samson, the French, about to call myself the French Fry Fro. No, I'm not. Abisha Hayes from Moody, the French Fry Fro. We'll catch y'all next week. Deuces.
All right.